301. So if you live in Whitakers, I still want you to remain in your safe places now. What I'm going to do is zoom down a little bit closer because I want to get back to more of the street locations in Cherry Crossroad. If you live in Battleboro, you can come out of your safe places. That's where the best rotation was showing up over the last few scans. With the updates now, I'm more concerned about those who live around Marriott Road, those who live around Cherry Crossroads, those of you who live around Seven Bridges Road, Morning Star Church Road. This is where you should be in your safe places now. Any children who are home from school during these summertime days and hours, please head into your safe places now. Where is that, you ask? That's the bathroom, that's the closet. What you can do is take your cell phone with you, abc11.com. We have information that's streaming directly live on for you now. If you don't want to do that, turn your television volume up really loud, as high as it can go, so that when you head into your safe places, you can still hear me. As I've been doing is clearing those of you, once the storm has passed, telling you when you can come out of your safe places now. I will continue to do that. So again, we're concerned about those of you around Cherry Crossroads. This is where the best rotation is showing up. Those of you around Gethsemane, you are under the tornado warning at this time too, and I want you to go ahead and move into your safe places now because this storm is tracking east at 30 miles per hour. I'm going to do another storm track so that we can see where this is headed. I also want to take a look at some of the velocity, the winds here. So those brighter pink colors are showing up, and it really is indicative of the strength of this tornado. A little bit weaker now, down to 75 miles per hour, but it doesn't take much to do damage. And so this, of course, is a concern. So we want you to move into your safe places now, and let's get there so that we can come out and enjoy the rest of the day. I want to storm track this tornado once again. So I'm going to broaden the picture back out. Again, we're focused on northern Edgecombe County, just to the south of Whitakers. South of Enfield. If you live in Enfield, you do have a severe thunderstorm warning. You're not in the tornado warning. It's right where you see this hook echo showing up on radar, where we have the best potential for rotation. So tracking this out with a movement of 30 miles per hour, here we are, and it sends it north and east towards Scotland Neck at around 125. But in the short term, Gethsemane, I still expect you to have impacts from this potential tornadic thunderstorm at roughly 12:56, into Drawn at around 5 after 1, and then towards Scotland Neck towards 125. So this is what we're monitoring closely right now. Severe thunderstorm warning also for the same thunderstorm. But as it broadens out a bit more and that line stretches more to the north, the impacts are a little bit more reduced. We have a chance for heavy rainfall still for Enfield. Those of you along I-95 moving up towards Roanoke Rapids, you have a chance for downpours. There's some lightning showing up, so intense downpours, meaning rainfall rates potentially of 2+ inches per hour. This extends all the way into Roanoke Rapids and along 301 up into Northampton County as well. But we're with you right now for the tornadic thunderstorm that continues. Again, this has been a confirmed tornado. It was confirmed near Drake, and now it has moved east of Drake, and now we're focused on areas around Whitakers and Highway 301 near Whitakers. I'm going to clear this off for us, and you can see right here on the radar we have what is showing up as a pretty decent hook echo. And that indicates some rotation within that thunderstorm just to the east of Highway 301, south of Whitakers. I again want to zoom down on some more of the localized communities here and roadways so that we can tell you where the best rotation is now. And it's still near Cherry Crossroad. It's still around Seven Bridges Road, still around Marriott Road and Morning Star Church Road. So if you live in these locations, please head into your safe place. Also, if you live near Wells Road, let's go ahead and move into our safe places as well. Spates Chapel Road, Jeremy's Lane. You know this community, you know this area. So if I'm calling out anything that's familiar to you east of 301, let's not waste any time and move into our safe places now. When we're talking tornado safety and safe places, if you have a 2-story home, you don't want to be on the 2nd floor. You want to be on the lowest level of your home. And that's because if a tornado does move through, of course, the damage can occur on those highest levels. So when you go on the lowest level, you can put more protective barriers around you. So avoiding windows, lowest floor, bathroom, closet. If you have a bicycle helmet, it's a good idea to take that in the closet with you. If you have tennis shoes nearby, grab those too. Just in case some damage occurs, you can get out safely and quickly. I mentioned earlier there was a chance that our severe weather risk could increase for parts of the region, and that has happened for mainly areas along I-95 and east, north of Wilson, extending up towards Roanoke Rapids. And it's these exact locations where we have the tornado warning in place right now. Bigger picture, broader picture on radar shows the showers and storms confined to our northeastern counties and Nash and Edgecombe counties, also up into Halifax too. We're still tracking closely the tornado warning that continues for areas south of Whitaker. I expect with the next scan that we'll likely see this pushed off a little bit more to the east, so I expect more impacts around Gethsemane. Here we are. The latest scan has come in, and now we see the bigger impacts with that potential rotation over Gethsemane. I'm encouraged by this latest scan, though, because it does show not as more of a defined couplet at this point. So I think we're starting to see this weaken a bit. But even with that weakening being the case, we're still looking at winds potentially of 60+ miles per hour. So that's a dangerous scenario, and we want to be mindful of that. Let me get those of you who went into your safe places around Whitakers, you can come out of your safe place now. Those of you who went into your safe place near Highway 301 in Cherry Crossroads, Battleboro, you can come out of your safe places now. If you live in Gethsemane, safe places for you at this moment. That's where you should be. Head there now. Make sure you are getting there safely. Bathroom, closet. If you live in Drawn, safe places for you too. I'm going to broaden this picture out. I know I've been zooming in a lot, but as the radar scans update, I really want to be able to tell you where the roads and the local community locations are going to be impacted. So again, we're looking at Gethsemane at this point. We're getting some reports in of trees down across I-95 associated with the tornado touchdown. This is from the National Weather Service. So they will be doing a survey in the coming hours on that damage. So once again, we have a reported tornado on the ground that crossed over I-95. This was confirmed. We then saw that track towards Whitakers, Drawn. It is now east, south of Enfield, now east of Whitakers, and now over Gethsemane. So this warning continues until 1:30 this afternoon. And what we're going to continue to watch for is a gradual weakening trend, which I do see happening at this point. But unfortunately, there's still some very strong winds associated with this potential tornado. I want to get back to those winds and check those out and see how strong of a wind setup we have at this point. So let me back this up just a bit. All right, so we still have stronger winds just near Highway 33. So if you live near Highway 33 east of Whitakers, this is where we have some of the strongest winds with that couplet, 60 miles per hour. So it's trending downward, but still concerning because of that strong wind damage and because of the history of this now tornadic cell that we can confirm at this point. South of Gethsemane is where we're seeing now the best rotation. And I want to check out some of these wind speeds too. Let's see, 30. Yeah, this is pretty strong. Still looking at roughly, wow, easily 85+ miles per hour. Also east near Drawn, I'm seeing more lightning popping up. So this once again tells me that we could see the storm, even though it may be cycling down a bit right now, I think it has a potential to tighten back up and get a little bit stronger as it pushes off to the east. I want to track this out for us. Those of you in Gethsemane, once again, you should be in your safe places now. We have movement at roughly 30 miles per hour on this tornadic thunderstorm, which has been confirmed at this point. So as we track this out at 30 miles per hour to the east, we're going to see impacts into Drawn in roughly 10 minutes. So that means for you, if you live in Drawn, safe places right now. If you live in Mullins Crossroads, more impacts coming your way around 1:15. Scotland Neck closer to 1:22. Into Woodville, if we can maintain the strength of this tornado, roughly 1:48. But again, looking at radar, definitely seeing more lightning east of the best rotation. So likely some more intensification on the way. In addition to the tornado warning that we have, for those of you around Gethsemane, we also have a severe thunderstorm warning. And this is still in effect now for areas south of Enfield, but it also includes locations that were impacted by the tornadic thunderstorm. So those of you in Whitakers, you're still under the severe thunderstorm warning until 1 o'clock this afternoon. Watching this track off to the east, it's going to be moving towards Highway 258. So those of you around Scotland Neck, let's make sure we're prepared to move into our safe places. Very heavy rainfall we've seen so far with this thunderstorm. Some of that around Centerville, Castalia, and we can look at some of the rainfall totals. Near Centerville, over 2 inches. Near Castalia, over 2 inches or as well, at least close to 2 inches. So we're getting the latest radar update in. I want to go back to that. Brought in the picture out once again. So if you are in Nash County, you are free and clear. All right, the tornado warning is now east of you in the best rotation, now off to your east. If you are in eastern Halifax County, I want you to be on guard. So that's pretty much anyone who is south and east of Enfield, Scotland Neck. I'm talking to you. Those of you south and east of Enfield, I want you to stay, please, plugged into what's happening right now. We have a confirmed tornado located 10 miles west of Scotland Neck, 12 miles north of Tarboro, moving east at 30 miles per hour. And what we've been seeing so far is the tornado was confirmed. We've already had reports of tree damage down near I-95. Still seeing winds at roughly, potentially, 85 miles per hour, maybe even a bit stronger. Also looking at this picture here, seeing more lightning developing east of that main center of rotation. So likely more intense storms going to be developing as this continues off to the east around Scotland Neck. I want to get back down on some street locations around the best rotation with this, what has been confirmed as a tornadic thunderstorm. So those of you who live around Highway 33, safe places now. If you're in Gethsemane, I still want you in your safe place. If you live around Jeremy's Lane, please, into your safe place now. You should be there. Spates Chapel Road, you should be in your safe place too. 7 Bridges Road, into your safe place as well. Those of you who live around, let's see, Cokertown Road, your safe place. You should be in your safe place. Lancaster Farm Road, you should be in your safe place too. We don't have any cameras out here as far as I know, so unfortunately I can't give you the visual, but I hope that confirmation of a tornado on the ground is enough for you to react and respond to go into your safe place this afternoon. If you live in Whitakers, you can come out of your safe place. If you live in Leggett, I see the warning for you for the severe thunderstorm warning, but again, the best storm action now is well off to your north and east, so you can come out of your safe places as well. If you live in Enfield, the strongest storms are now tapping east of you along Highway 301. We're really concentrated at this point for those who are in Gethsemane, those who live in Roseneath, and those who live in Scotland Neck. The radar continues to be encouraging in terms of that rotation that was once very defined. It's more broad at this point, so that's why the radar looks a little bit messier now, not a tight couplet that we saw earlier. I do want to go back down and look at some of the storm relative velocity and the gusty wind potential too. So based off of this latest update here on the scan, and you may be saying, what am I seeing? You want to look for where the reds and greens touch together. And we're not seeing as tight of a couplet as we saw before near Drawn, but we still have some pretty strong winds. Now it looks like they've come down to roughly 55 miles per hour or so. I like this trend, and I do hope that it continues, but for now, the tornado warning is still ongoing. So let's reset right now. If you live in Halifax County, we're talking around Scotland Neck, you are under a tornado warning right now. If you live in Okay, thank you very much. We now have some updates that we can get in. We have somebody from the Nash County Sheriff's Office at 1 o'clock who can give us an update on what we've seen so far. Who am I talking to? And please share the information that you have.
It's Sheriff Keith Stone, Nash County. You know, we have had a tornado to touch down in our area here. We have traffic congestion here on I-95, also on NC 43. I want to urge the public to stay out of this area. Don't go out and ride and look. I know the storm's passed over at this time. However, the most dangerous time for EMS workers and law enforcement and the cleanup crews is the traffic that happens afterwards. Obviously, you're going to have power lines down and things of that nature. So I can't urge the public enough to stay out of this area. Let the cleanup crews and emergency personnel do their jobs, and let's get this area secure before people start riding and looking at the damage.
Sheriff Keith Stone, thank you for this update. Can you again tell us where that damage has been reported, where you're seeing streets that are interrupted at this time?
Just as you reported, it's come up through Castalia and obviously NC 43 on a track across I-95 into Edgecombe County and up NC 33 towards the Leggett area, but it seems to have broken off and traveling north before it got to the Leggett area in Edgecombe County. Very
much falls in line with what we were seeing on radar here. Thank you for those updates. Any power outages reporting at this time? Are you aware of that?
We do. Obviously, we've got power damage, power lines down, and we have houses that have been damaged and trees down, and typical that you would have with a tornado.
Yeah, those were pretty strong. I was seeing winds at 85 miles per hour plus as I was tracking across Nash County. I know you have to get back to work. You're making sure the cleanup efforts go smoothly. Thank you for confirming what we were seeing on radar, and I do hope the cleanup continues for you swiftly today.
And please, if we can, reiterate, if the public can stay out of these areas while we're doing the cleanup and assessing people and trying to make sure that they're safe, it would be a big help.
Loud and clear. We thank you for that. Again, those of you around Castalia, those of you in Nash County near Leggett, we have had reports of a confirmed tornado, reports of damage, reports of houses damaged, trees down, likely some power outage as well. And so these locations will have to deal with cleanup. If you can avoid these areas for congestion, this is not the time to go out and sightsee. Let the officials do as they need to do, emergency managers and those who will come to clean up and restore your family and neighbors electricity and just help them get cleaned up. Please allow for that to occur today. We are still monitoring the tornadic thunderstorm. It's now over parts of eastern Halifax County and also over portions of Edgecombe as well. Certainly not as strong as it once was, but let this warning be enough for you. We had the tornado warning. Initially, we didn't have any confirmation. And then we got confirmation with damage. Let this warning be enough for you, please, to go into your safe places now. Meteorologist Steve Stewart is here as well, and he's also monitoring the tracks that we actually saw, Steve, this tornado take.
What a classic echo, too. I mean, it's just the way that thing, you know, exactly seeing what we would expect with a tornadic cell. And if we could take a look, I believe I'm on weather. Is this weather 1?
That is weather 1.
Okay, I think I'm on weather 1. If we could switch to that, you're going to see these little blue tracks on there, Director. It's either weather 1 or weather 2, if we could switch that over. Anyway, really a good line. You can see from Spring Hope right up into Nashville. You can see that rotation was really strong all the way between Whitaker's there and just north of Rocky Mount, and we still have that rotation. There it is.
To our director, yep, weather 2. There you go.
Okay, so you can see how that just pulled right along that line there in this entire area. Anytime you see those type of lighter colors in the blue, that's really strong rotation depicted there by the radar. So that's, again, is why we had this warning in effect, and we still do for another at least, about 25 minutes or so. And as far as how it's looking right now, you see where Scotland Neck is. Let me go ahead and put the velocities on, and we're going to get a little bit closer here. That is still a really impressive couplet there that we're looking at. And how fast has this been moving?
30 miles per hour.
So it is at a good clip. Let's put relative velocity on to count for that speed. And so Roseneath, it's just north of you, but it looks like, let's look at the direction of movement again. As we pull this back, boy, that was a really nice couplet, and then still holding together. If you live in and around the Scotland Neck area or before that, you need to be in your safe space now. From Sand Pit Road, Phillips Road, Old 125, any of these areas, if you live anywhere in this area, Mullins Crossroads, we urge you to get into your safe space. space at this point in time because, again, this rotation, we already know this was on the ground. It doesn't mean it is now. Sometimes we can have what we call a family of tornadoes where it's there that somehow the flow gets disrupted, but the cell that's generating this is still rotating and it can spawn it once again. So what we're looking at, this is a ways away from the radar, so it's not really low-level rotation. As we're this far away, we might actually switch to another radar and take a peek at it, but anywhere near Scotland Neck there, Quaylen, is where we really need to keep an eye on closely.
Right. We're tracking it out closely. Of course, we want to make sure that our viewers stay informed. So if you live in Scotland Neck, you're still closer to 120 on potential impacts because right now the best rotation, as you can see there, is showing up west of Scotland Neck. That's where a lot of the lightning is at this point. I mentioned that we would likely see more intensification because this was really tapping into unstable atmosphere, and that's what we're seeing right now. So even though it seems like things are weakening for us for now, we don't want to take any chances. Those of you around Scotland Neck, let's head into our safe places. We have an update to the tornado warning, and what the Weather Service has essentially done is to now account for exactly where we have the track beginning, west of Scotland Neck, and they pull it off to the east. So if you live in Northfleet, likely to you around 135. If you live in Woodville, around 147. And Olander, forgive me, I lived in New Orleans, so everything's French to me. 158 is the time on that potential impact for you if we can see this holding together. But this storm and this cell has a history of damage. We've already seen and had reports of confirmed tornado. We talked to our Nash County Sheriff's Office with confirmed damage to homes. Power likely out for some locations as well. Urging you to stay away from the areas impacted in Nash County, including around Castelia, around Leggett, where we saw the track actually take shape. And now this has moved off to the east. This is where the tornado warning is now. We still have stronger storms now. Still north of this, you don't fall under the warning in Roanoke Rapids or Halifax, but you still have some strong gusty storms moving through with some heavy downpours. And Steve, those rainfall rates were very impressive, over 2 inches per hour. What I also noted was, in classic tornado fashion, when you have a strong gecko, you don't always get those heavier downpours nearby.
Right, absolutely, yeah, yeah. So, and we were talking on the phone just a little while ago how it moved, it held together from Charlotte, and it looked like it had some sort of rotation to it. We're like, this is interesting, and sure enough, now we had the spin up there. If we could switch over really quick, back to weather too. This thing is what I have up here now is called spectrum width with the radar, and it does a really good job of showing you abrupt change in wind direction, and you can see where those colors are, and that's right where we think that rotation is. So this is another way to depict that. This is not a debris ball graphic. That's a different thing altogether called the correlation coefficient, but I'm not seeing it there. But this would give you a good indication where you see some of these brighter colors that there is really abrupt wind change. So that would be a really tight funnel there, obviously. That's where we have that warning right now. And again, this is in effect for another 20 minutes or so. And we're hoping to see, I mean, the radar echo looks a little bit weaker, but the fact that we still have, it's a little bit broader of a couplet right now than it was earlier, but that's still there. The green and the reds are really close to one another. And you know, Quaylen, if I go ahead and switch, maybe if we switch over to, Wakefield, and there it is, see, it looks a little better, doesn't it? Yeah, so it's easier in our world to depict this. So it looks like the strength of this couplet is really close between Sandpit Road, like we said before, and Douglas Hill Farm Road. And keep in mind, too, this particular image is going to update every 5 minutes. And so likely it's going to be a little bit farther, closer to, let me get my little arrow on here for you. Likelihood it's going to be probably where this arrow is at this point in time. So on the way to Scotland Neck, still holding its rotation together. We've already had this as a confirmed tornado. Please get to your safe space if you can in and around Scotland Neck, and do not go out and take your camera and say, oh, I want to see if we can get a video to go viral. It's not worth risking your life. So get into your safe space and wait and hopefully, again, as Quaylen was saying, it'll weaken, but we're waiting for another scan here that hopefully will come in very, very quickly. Not seeing hail with this. Well, there's a little bit potentially, yeah, right, the little tiny purple, it's not even close to severe, but definitely some heavy downpours. So another 19 minutes to go, and this could get extended, Quaylen.
I think it just may, Steve. Unfortunately, like you said, it's been holding together. What I want to do is now now, go back down closer to some of these localized roads, we can tell you where there's the latest updated scan too that has just come in. So those of you around Scotland Neck, you still have to deal with this. If you live near Grazinon Road, please head into your safe places now. Mullins Crossroads. Those of you along Highway 258 into your safe places too. If you live in Charleston, we want you to head into your safe places as well. Notice on the tornado warning labeled here, we generally have what we see as radar indicated for the tornado warning. This has changed. It says observed, and that's because we have a confirmed tornado on the ground. So let that be enough for you, please, to move into your safe places now. There's more lightning developing. If you live around Mullins Crossroads, you're noticing probably more lightning and thunder activity, and that's where we're seeing some more intensity. I think you also have a better chance to see more downpours and heavy rainfall this time around as this tracks off to the east. Those of you who are in Nash County, you're in the clear. Those of you in Edgecombe County, you are in the clear. So if you went into your safe places now around Leggett, around Whitakers, even around Speed, you can come out of your safe places. We are once again focused more on those of you into Halifax County, Scotland Neck specifically. If you're in Roseneath, safe places now with heavy downpour potential, and again, a tornado confirmed with damage out to the west. Highway 258 around Scotland Neck, we should go ahead and move into our safe places as well. We have another 17 minutes on this warning. It's set to expire for now at 1:30, but as we've seen the progression of this thunderstorm from west to east, it has unfortunately resulted in the extension of the warning because it is held together pretty well. And so we still have some rotation concerns. We still have some wind concerns of strength of 90 miles per hour potentially, with some heavy downpours. There's rainfall rates coming in pretty high as well. We've seen earlier with some potential for some small hail, high cloud tops, really intense downpour potential too. And that's what we're looking at right now. So if you live in Scotland Neck, let's go ahead and move into our safe places. We cannot just emphasize this enough that we want you to be able to come out on the other side of this storm situation. Safe place again is the most interior portion of your home, the bottom floor. If you have a two-story home, you want to be on the bottom floor. Most damage occurs on the top floor. That's why we encourage you to go to the bottom floor. Basement, bathroom, closet. Grab your helmet if it's a baseball helmet, or it can be a bike helmet. You can take that with you. Those of you who have kids that are maybe at home, it may be a microphone that's popping a little bit. Kids at home, you can head into your safe places now, and they should be in their safe places until it's time to clear. Steve.
Yeah, and I just want to show you this visible. If we could go over to weather one really quick, and just the cloud tops on this, the storm tops, where this is at about 41,000 feet. I mean, that's getting up there above, you know, where the jet airliners are going to be at that altitude. And you see behind it, this is a concern, and Quaylen mentioned this earlier, that we're clear here. Look at the juice that we have. Look at the dew points that are even in the wake of that line. Probably that rain helped a little bit, but at 80 dew point in Clinton, 76 in Raleigh, 75 in Durham. So it's warm. Obviously, we're in the 80s and some 90s. And now we have dew points that high. So just because this is the storm that we're tracking right now doesn't mean we're not going to get more a little bit later on. Matter of fact, it's probable that we are going to see some more strong storms a little bit later on. But this is it. If you look at the entire radar, it's just that one cell. And by the way, that's the same one that started early this morning in Charlotte and surprisingly held itself together this entire time. And if you look at just the last couple of frames here, boy, look at that classic hook we had back there. But look how the lightning is trying to ramp up a little bit again. So this cell could be getting a little bit stronger as it continues on its way towards Scotland Neck, and likely will continue towards Rich Square and beyond. Whether it has the rotation or not at that point in time, still a good question mark. But let's go ahead and examine and see if I got a new scan in or not. I'm going to go ahead and do that Wakefield one again. So yeah, it's a little bit of a more of a broad. We're seeing a little difference between the reds and that bright green. They're not exactly, jumping out at each other and touching. So usually that bright green will be touching the red here. So we'll call this a little bit more broad circulation, which doesn't mean that this is in the clear by any stretch, but it's not nearly as strong as it was a little bit earlier where that couplet was a little bit closer together. But it looks like now, let's back this up a couple of frames. So the center of that rotation is likely in this area here, and it's moving in this direction, which could be just north of Scotland Neck. So let's go and look at some of the roads in this area. There's that Sandpit Road again, and these little offshoots likely to some communities there. I'm not getting any names there, but let's see a bigger road. Highway 125. Very close to seeing that rotation move right over 125 there near, what is that, Lullaby Drive, Field Drive, areas like that. And let's go a little bit farther out and just take a peek. So Mary Chapel Road, I believe that's Cemetery Road there. So if you hear these roads and you go, oh, we know where that is, we need to make sure that you're in that safe space right now. The only good news, Quaylen, like we said a minute ago, is the rotation looks to be a little bit broader. But it doesn't mean this is we're in the clear, not even close. And the recent lightning strikes would denote that this could be ramping up a little bit.
Yeah, the warning has continued still until 1:30 by the National Weather Service. Still looking at, as Steve has been telling us, based off of radar indications, the best rotation near Scotland Neck, 14 miles southwest of Rich Square. It's moving east at 25, so it's a little bit slower. We can go back to Weather 3 so that we can see the radar reflectivity. This is the view that shows us the darker reds and the yellows, and what this is specifically is rainfall, locally heavy around Scotland Neck, and this is where the best rotation is showing up at this point. Still tracking off to the east, 25 miles per hour, so it has slowed a bit in speed. I'm encouraged by a little less lightning south of Scotland Neck, but still, there are some intense downpours happening here. Heavy rainfall rates easily 2+ inches per hour on some of the things we've seen. And with a weakening thunderstorm, I think you have potential to collect more of this heavy rainfall. So once again, if you're around Scotland Neck, let's please remain in our safe places. If you are in Rich Square, I want you to go ahead and prepare to move into your safe place. This is tracking to the northeast at roughly 25 miles per hour. We've seen locally heavy downpours. Again, this thunderstorm has a history of damage, including trees down, houses damaged, also some power outages being reported by members of the sheriff's office that we talked to in Nash County about 30 minutes ago. So there's the confirmation that we were looking for with what the radar was showing and based off of the warning that the Weather Service issued. So this continues right now. This is one of those situations where you just take our word for it today and move into your safe places until this passes. Once this moves out, we have a bit of a break coming, several dry hours, I think, for many locations in the area, but then we'll start to pick up on more showers and storms later today. There was a potential for an issuance of a severe weather watch, maybe a severe thunderstorm watch, or maybe even a tornado watch. That has yet to come out, but what we want you to know is that the risk for severe weather is a little bit higher for these areas into Northampton, Halifax, Nash, and Edgecombe counties. I don't expect these storms to impact what we're going to see later on this evening for soccer, so still looking pretty good for that forecast in Chapel Hill, but we will have some spotty storms around and potentially some of those a bit stronger later on this evening. It's 1:19. We are with you this afternoon on ABC 11, joining you because of a tornado warning that was issued during our newscast. And this has been a thunderstorm that has been pretty consistent in strength. It is tracked from areas around Wake County and Franklin. It was not tornadic at that point, but then as it moved into Nash County, it did really juice up. It tapped into some unstable air, and it was able to show some rotation. We had a really impressive couplet. At this point, we're left with still a pretty strong storm over Scotland Neck, some broad rotation, likely some winds at easily 70 miles per hour, but some heavy rainfall too. This is moving off to the east at roughly 25 to 30 miles per hour.
And that's been consistent,
yes,
overall, yeah. And over on Weather 2, I want to show you, this is the latest scan, and this is the one up from Wakefield in Virginia. If we could switch over to Weather 2 really quick. I want to go back in time and show you the difference of the couplet. I guess we're not going to switch. Okay.
There we go.
There we go. All right. So if we take this back a little bit, you see the really bright colors that are really close to each other? Those are range rings. Don't worry about that. But right there, see those really bright colors? That was when the tornado was basically on the ground and we had the confirmation. As we go through time, you can easily notice that that brightness is fizzling out. In the last couple of frames now, you see it looks nothing like it did before. There is a really good possibility we might still see a funnel, but there is potential that this is weakening considerably. If this trend continues, more than likely this warning will be allowed to expire, but it doesn't mean it can't ramp back up. But you see the huge difference from before when it was really a significant couplet, and now it seems to be getting more broad, and we're not seeing the really bright greens right next to the really bright reds. So again, I just wanted to point out at least that is some good news there. And typically these warnings, once we get to 10 minutes till, whether they were going to they won't cancel it. They're just going to allow it to expire. So we'll see if that does indeed happen. But yeah, these storms up to, again, incredible 41,000 feet. And it's just this one little storm. And there's that track again. You can see that line as it moved right along where the bright colors are, heading right into Scotland Neck. But notice the brightness of those colors as it gets closer to Scotland Neck. It's more of the dark and not the brighter blue color, which denotes less and less sign of that rotation. So I'm defining some good things here, Quaylen. That, you know, we hope that no one got hurt. We know there was some damage recorded with this, and we hate to see that. But as the sheriff was saying earlier, just let them get their job done. They're going to go out there and clean things up, and we'll continue to monitor this cell. So there's the cell. This is the latest high-resolution rapid refresh model. It initializes really well here, showing you where that's at. Once we get to, say, 2:30, it's out of our viewing area, but still looks like there's some rotation with it, which is impressive. But once it moves out, notice most of us are not seeing a lot of activity, but there'll be some cells that do develop. And the likelihood is we're going to get some strong gusty winds, some frequent lightning, and really impressive downpours with dew points in the mid-70s. You have to understand that is so much available fuel for these thunderstorms to grow big into the area. When that happens, the higher they grow, the bigger the hailstones could become as well. So we'll watch for that hail later today into the evening hours. But this particular model keeps the lion's share of the activity in the sand hills. But we always want to stress, don't take it literally exactly that's where it's going to be. You know, it could be anywhere. That line could set up a little bit closer to the triangle. I see that we're on the roads. I'm not sure exactly, producer, where that's at. I don't think that's up where maybe we're heading in that direction. But most areas, with the exception of our extreme northeast counties, are completely dry after that heavy rain that moved on by. So let me pull it up again and just show you.
What you're seeing right now, by the way, on the screen is our forecast for later on tonight. So that is not what's happening right now.
Right, right.
Predictor.
I was trying to switch over. Okay, so now here we go. And this is the latest, the radar. Boy, it's slow to load on this computer.
I think it's tired, Steve.
It's been working a lot today. Yeah. So there's that warning. And again, we're losing a lot of the signature of this, the rotation here. And we like to see that. Let's go ahead and put on the velocities again. That is our radar. Let's switch over to Wakefield. Oh, goodness. So the latest scan looks even better, meaning less and less of that rotation as we get closer and closer to Scotland Neck. So that warning more than likely will be allowed to expire unless for some reason this starts to ramp back up once again. But still, as you were saying, Quaylen, it's not just that. We still have very heavy rainfall in a few of these areas that moved over our area. Like you said, we got 1 to maybe 1.5 inches in a short amount of time. My house got just over 1 inch of rain in about 35 minutes.
Sure thing. It needed rainfall too, as we did have a deficit. We made some of that up last week around Raleigh, but it was nice to still see some beneficial rains. Came in torrential downpours, and we have this more of this potential for downpours through the afternoon and early evening. We have lots of visitors in town, of course, for the big soccer game this evening. I think we're going to get most of the showers and storms away from Chapel Hill before game time, but there's still potential if you're tailgating today. that we could have more showers and storms leading up to that time frame. You can see where some of the rainfall is now that Steve has shown over the last 12 hours. Where are we now? We are zooming in back in on weather too.
Yeah, I'm going back, just to show.
Okay, so what Steve is showing now is around Scotland Neck. We still have the tornado warning in place for Scotland Neck for another 5 minutes. Again, as Steve mentioned, when we get into that 10-minute time frame of expiration, there's sometimes a chance that the Weather Service will just allow for this to expire at the end time as opposed to canceling it sooner. We are encouraged by what we're seeing on radar though, which shows a much weaker tornadic signature at this point, a much broader scenario relative to what we saw earlier near Whitakers and Castalia. And so I'm thankful to see this. I'm thankful that so far we haven't had any reports of injuries as has been mentioned, but we have had reports of damage to homes, trees down as well near I-95, and also impacts of likely power outages too. So if you encounter locations that have been impacted by storms, please stay out of the way. Those of you in Scotland Neck, I want you to move about for the next couple of hours with mindfulness because we still have heavy downpours, especially along Highway 258. This is where the storm action continues. More of the lightning now has moved off east of Scotland Neck, and I'm not seeing as much of that as we saw in the last few scans. So also an indication that we're likely seeing what's a weakening storm at this point. Still going to produce some heavy rainfall, some gusty wind potential, but there's a high probability that once we get to 1:30, we'll see this warning allowed to expire. Still off to the north of this main batch of storms, we also have another that's still impacting areas around Roanoke Rapids, areas along let's see, Highway 158 near Seaboard, seeing locally heavy rainfall too, and more lightning around there as well. So we'll be keeping a close eye on the weather around Seaboard because as I see more lightning strikes developing, there's that visible satellite too. It really shows the textured cloud cover there, the punching of the cloud tops occurring as those updrafts get a bit stronger. That's what we're seeing around Roanoke Rapids. So that could be an early sign that we're on our way to some stronger storm development around areas in Roanoke Rapids. And so that's something we'll be watching over the next several hours.
Yeah. And again, like you mentioned earlier where it says observed, that doesn't necessarily mean it's being observed as we speak. That was earlier when we saw it and we actually had the confirmation. So right now, the fact that the rotation is so weak, confidence is really going up. But
our producer is Jasmine. Jasmine, can you tell us where this live shot is on the road? This is our ABC 11 crew on the way to Nash County. What they're going to do is take a look at the storm damage that has occurred, get updates for us that they can share with you also on abc11.com. That will probably be the first place where those updates will be available to you. But you can see those dry conditions, dry roads out there, still some cloudy skies, but definitely a chance for recovery efforts to happen at this point with the dry conditions and the storms now well off to the east. Not the case right now around Scotland Neck, though. We still have some locally heavy downpours. That's still well off to the east into Halifax County, but those around Nash and Edgecombe, an opportunity for recovery to continue. You can see the radar lapse there that's being shown, and it really just does a nice job of indicating where we saw some stronger storms earlier this morning, how they really had a chance to grow up and take advantage of the unstable atmosphere. That rotation, oh my goodness, that spin. I mean, even to an untrained eye, I think it's just visible there. Very impressive. We eventually saw a tornado that was confirmed, and now we're seeing the last batch of the storm action moving out of Halifax County into Northampton County. Time is 1:29, so we're literally counting down the seconds now to what could be the expiration of this warning that's still in place for very eastern fringes of Halifax County. Those of you who are in Scotland Neck, you're still under the warning technically, but not seeing an indication of anything that could be ramping back up at this point. No introduction of greater lightning strike counts right now. Still some heavy downpours for those of you near Highway 258 in Scotland Neck. So we want you to just please be mindful as you move around and about these areas. But for now, we're looking pretty good. We're counting down another 10 seconds or so on the warning. And what we're looking for at this point is for the Weather Service to say the warning has been canceled. And once that warning is canceled, we will return you to regular programming, but also be aware that as necessary, we will interrupt programming if we need to. So now we have the latest scan. The time is 1:30. The warning has been allowed to expire. I want to take a broad look at our radar here, just so you can see. Steve, we're on weather 2 now. Can we go back to weather 3 just quickly to show the showers and storms pushing out of the viewing area? There we are. And what happens now is the Weather Service has replaced that warning with a severe thunderstorm warning for eastern Halifax County. That's until 1:45. So that's for potential damaging winds, maybe an isolated tornado. They'll be following that, but they haven't issued that yet. So that's something we'll be monitoring for the next few hours. So right now at 1:30, sending you back to regular programming, but please stay plugged in to the news. We're not going back to programming. Now we're going back to Barbara and John for the latest updates. Thank you.
Thank you so much, meteorologist Quayla Murphy and Steve Stewart, for all that coverage. I know that the viewers appreciate it, and so do we.
We're going to go to GMA 3 already in progress, but our coverage of this weather situation continues online at abc11.com, our streaming service also as well. Much more coverage at 4 p.m. on Eyewitness News. We have live team coverage for you covering this weather situation and that tornado observed north of Rocky Mount.
So we're staying on. I don't have much weather to talk about. Check, check, check. Hey, Eve, are we off air right now? Yeah. Are we off digital air too? Are we cleared from digital air for now? I don't have a lot of weather to talk about at this point. I don't have much of anything.
Right, no, that's fine, but I'm saying what we're going still with meteorologists, we don't have enough right now. So we'll hold, but we don't have, we don't, no, because we don't have anywhere to go.
It's dry.
Yeah, we don't.
-6 lifted index that cell is moving into.
Dang.
With Cape at around 3,000 joules. And there's bulk shear. And the beta version of the Sherpy has a big circle right about here of tornadic activity. So when that cell gets up here, but that's out of our
viewing area.
interrupt this program for breaking news from ABC 11 Eyewitness News.
And good afternoon, John Clark along with Barbara Gibbs. We are coming into programming to talk about a tornado situation in Nash County and the Rocky Mount area. We have reports of a tornado observed and some damage, and we're going to have more about that. We have a live crew on the scene.
That's right. And for the last almost an hour, we've had meteorologist Quaylen Murphy and Steve Stewart covering every bit of this storm situation with us. We're going to go to them now for the latest on this, guys.
Thank you, Barbara. Good afternoon. So what we have right now is still what's left of this cell that we've been tracking since the early morning hours, and that is still resulting in a severe thunderstorm warning for portions of eastern Halifax County into parts of Northampton County as well. So those of you who are well east of Scotland Neck, we still have a severe thunderstorm warning with the potential for a tornado to develop too. Still some heavy downpours. Latest radar scan just coming in. So this is clipping portions of eastern Northampton County right now, south of Bridge Square, where we're seeing that best potential for some gusty winds and locally heavy downpours. South of Bridge Square, moving likely out of the viewing area into areas which will likely impact, let's say, Bertie County, ultimately those up towards Elizabeth City if this can remain intact. 60-mile-per-hour winds possible with this severe thunderstorm that has a history of tornadic potential. Also some heavy downpours too. Some of the rainfall rates have been easily over 2 inches per hour, but the broad picture shows the much quieter setup that we have for locations that were impacted, including from Nash County into portions of Wilson County, also into Edgecombe County as well, and now seeing what's left of this cell pushing northeast at movement of roughly 30 miles per hour into parts of Northampton and Halifax County. Meteorologist Steve Stewart is here as well. We've both been impressed really with the circulation in general, how tall those cloud tops were able to get, Steve, 45,000 feet in the atmosphere. Really heavy downpours.
Really heavy downpours, and just the fact that it held together with that rotation from Charlotte this morning. Typically, you see something like that, it fizzles out a lot of times, and it held together the entire way. If we can go over to weather 2 really quick, I want to take you back in time and note the time of this. This was at 11:42 this morning. If we could switch it over, there we go. And as this was coming in close to Spring Hope, look at the tail end of the line. You see how that little bit of a line started showing right down here? And then all of a sudden, a couple frames later, you start to see this hook showing up. And this was when the rotation ramped up very quickly. And this is when we had the potential for that tornado. And of course, right through here, that is, we're talking classic looking hook echo as it moved right across the area. Look at that. So you can see the inflow notches right here. The winds are wrapping around it. So we have, it was coming in this way like that. And then here it was really coming in strong. And that's why the rain was getting pushed back. So really impressive to say the least. And if we take you and look at that rotation, that's exactly where it was. Let me back it up. Right where I was showing you that hook echo, anywhere you see these little brighter blue dots, that's where the rotation by the radar was significant. And this is obviously enough. Even if it was a weaker tornado, we stress this all the time, it can do significant amount of damage. And it was moving about 30 miles an hour. So you also get the forward motion on the right side of the rotation that can make the winds even stronger. But as Quaylen was saying, it's long gone now. In its wake, it is incredibly humid. These dew points, we typically complain when the dew point's up around 70. It's a 79 dew point in Clinton, 76 in Raleigh, 77 Smithfield. So there is so much juice in the air right now, and we're going to start to warm things up. We've got full sun in many locations right now. So these numbers where you see 85 in Raleigh, 84 in Durham, that was knocked way down when that shower moved on through. This is going to start growing quickly. Heat, humidity, instability. Right now we have some of the factors we look at significant for unstable. So that means we expect to get some storms later on. The issue is how much are we going to get? So a lot of the high resolution models are just showing spotty storms, but the issue is the ones that develop. We're not necessarily worried about rotation at this point in time with these later on today, but definitely frequent lightning, incredibly heavy rainfall, and a good probability of some hail in these, and winds are still going to be the main factor. So that's 8 p.m. And then we get a little bit later on, we still have some around midnight, and then still a couple of showers overnight. And then tomorrow, we have a chance of doing this again as we have another risk for severe weather tomorrow, even higher risk, especially down into the sandhills. But anytime the weather people are talking about, oh, we got sunshine in an atmosphere like this, that's bad. That gives us differential heating. The air is going to be rising up, and anytime we get vertical motion in the atmosphere with this much moisture around, we can really see those thunderstorms pop.
We do have an update now. The Halifax County severe thunderstorm warning has been allowed to expire. We still carry the severe thunderstorm warning for portions of eastern Northampton County. So let's once again zoom down to the areas being impacted, and that includes Rich Square. Rich Square south of you is really where the best heavy downpours and that chance for some gusty winds are at this point, mainly near Roxabelle. That's where I'm seeing the heaviest rainfall potential and that chance for some gusty winds too. So if you are in Rich Square, just know you do have a severe thunderstorm warning until 2:15. This is another 15 to 30 minutes on the warning. Gusty winds likely around 40 miles per hour, but some wind gusts as high as 58 plus miles per hour possible. Certainly not as strong as this was early this morning. I think it's really tapped out now. At this point, it's really used a lot of the energy available. There are the winds now. Steve's putting those on velocity. So it is showing those winds of roughly 30 to 40 miles per hour with some stronger winds possible. But at this point, below severe parameters, it takes for winds of 58 plus miles per hour to classify a severe thunderstorm warning. We could also have some hail, but we haven't been seeing a lot of indications of that either based off of our radar analysis. So that is good. The other picture, though, just shows dry conditions across much of the area. We do have a crew en route to Nash County. They are checking in with some of the damage reports that we've received and information from the sheriff's office there. As of the latest update from the sheriff's office, there were no reports of injuries, but of course, Dewan Hogard and our ABC 11 crew will confirm that for us, in addition to other power outages that may have happened during the course of this storm moving through. What's left of it now is in Northampton and Halifax County. Steve mentioned an opportunity for us to really start to ramp back up the heat this afternoon and the humidity, but with the moisture that's in place, those rainfall makers, these storms have been really efficient. We've seen easily 1.5 to 2+ inches of rainfall in a short amount of time. A lot of that coming in just an hour's time, even 45 minutes for some spots. And it all did not cause minor flooding because some locations simply needed it. Localized areas have been kind of dry with our hit or miss showers and storms, typical of our summertime patterns. But on a day like today, we'll have a chance to see ongoing rain and storms, and that could lead to some minor street flooding in locations as well.
A lot of times this time of year, we always get a little bit nervous anytime that we see ripe conditions. It doesn't mean it's going to actually materialize, but we think today is a decent chance. And tomorrow too. Tomorrow there's going to be upper level energy that comes across the area, and that has a tendency to make the atmosphere want to lift. And anytime we go vertical, any type of lifting that we get in the atmosphere, these storms can start growing. And then depending on how unstable it is, the rate at which they grow and the height at which they grow are determined by their instability. And keep in mind, the bigger they get, that's where we get the more severe weather on the backside.
We have an update now from John Clark, so we're going to send it back over to John Clark at the news desk.
Yeah, Stephen Quaylen, stand by there. We have this word from the authorities in Nash County, the Rocky Mount area. All lanes of I-95 are closed near Rocky Mount between US 64 and NC Highway 43 due to a road obstruction. The road is expected to reopen by 4 o'clock, but I-95, both directions closed near Rocky Mount between US 64 and NC Highway 43.
And I know authorities, during your interview, Quaylen, was it the sheriff who said if everybody could kind of stay off the roadway area and kind of out of that area where they'd seen the damage, it would help with the cleanup?
It would. Steve, can you pull that graphic back up of the storm track that we saw earlier? I think that will help us have more of a visual as to what John and Barbara were explaining based off of what the sheriff's office has tweeted out. So we mentioned near I-95, near Rocky Mount, and where was that roadway, Barbara? Highway 301? 64? US 64. Yes. So in that general location, yep, and you can see it there.
So they closed 95. There's a decent chance that there's a tree blocking the road or something like, or some debris on the road.
Easily, and we got reports that came in from the storm, from the Weather Service earlier that did indicate trees had come down along I-95. So this would fall right in line with the storm reports we've received, the confirmation we received, and based off of what the radar is showing here, based off of the track of the storm. Those two icons you see with the funnel clouds / tornadoes near Red Oak and East, those are the actual reports that have come in. Of course, any reports of tornado sightings would show up on this map because they're pushed into a system. But this is all related to the same thunderstorm that tracked from southwest to northeast. And you can see around Nashville, basically a line from Nashville south of Red Oak up into areas south of Whitakers. And that's what I was explaining earlier with that potential and best rotation showing up. Also, some impressive videos beginning to come out on social media of what is a tornado.
Absolutely.
And so we are just going to wait for the survey reports and the damage reports to come in at this time, because the tornado has been confirmed and the damage as a result. What's left now is what you see on First Alert Doppler. That's a severe thunderstorm warning that continues for Northampton County to include Ridge Square, but the strongest storms are now well south of Ridge Square at this point, with heavy downpour potential and maybe some gusty winds, but the strongest winds we were able to see at this point are around 40 miles per hour.
Yeah. It's impressive, this entire line how it's held together from Charlotte this morning. But now, as Quaylen was saying, it's almost out of our viewing area. Northampton County still dealing with this. We're not getting rotation like we did before. But I will say this, the environment that this cell is moving into out of our viewing area, but as it heads up towards Norfolk, there's going to be incredible instability, and there's still some signs of some bulk rotation. So there is that potential that we could see something in that cell there start to spin up once again. But for us, yeah, it's not only is it quiet around here, it's just hot, it's sticky, our dew points are incredibly high. We got a little seed popping up here, Quaylen's telling me already. Right, and this is how it starts. Let me switch over to our radar because it loops a little bit smoother.
That's into Johnston County.
Yep.
And also North and Sampson
And
County.
there's another little cell that's near Benton Village is trying to, but dew points in the mid, so watch these. These could grow fairly quickly here in the next 30 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It could be a pulse storm. It could get a little bit and then start to die back down. We'll see how these develop. But the environment is very unstable right now, so I wouldn't be surprised if these rocket up.
And Steve, those were locations that were dry this morning. When I saw feels like temperatures at noon, they were in the triple digits.
Yep.
For these areas, Sampson
Yeah.
County, down into Cumberland County as well. So these are certainly storms that we'll be watching carefully.
There's another one.
For
Look
the
at
rest of there we are.
Oxford.
Yeah, so popping up here. Let me see if I can pull up our heat index values. And I'm on weather 3. Clinton, still 106. 104 in Fayetteville is the feels like temperature. Contrast that with temperatures in the 90s and 80s for those rain-cooled spots. So definitely untapped energy to the south. And we have our eyes on you in the Sandhills today, but we'll certainly have our eyes on you in the Sandhills tomorrow as well, because that's where the risk for severe weather will be a little bit higher tomorrow afternoon. And Steve mentioned it. We're going to have instability across the area, some support from the upper levels, not just the lower level support, but the upper levels too, with a trough that'll finally start to swing in. That trough's going to help get the cold front through. That's going to make us cooler for the weekend. But until then, we're in unstable conditions, and we'll have some sunshine to work with tomorrow as well.
I always tell, when my kids were asking me about what does upper level support mean, it's basically like if you were on a bike and you were going up a hill and it was really hard. Imagine if someone was walking next to you and put their hand on the seat and started pushing you.
Nice.
It's going to be a little bit easier to get up that hill.
Yeah.
Same thing, if you were unstable at the surface and now I got upper level support, it's going to make it easier for that air to get up.
That's for sure. We're
Yeah.
going to toss it back to John and Barbara for the latest updates.
All right, thank you, Steve and Quaylen. We appreciate that. We want to go to Dwan Hogard. He is live for us in Nash County, and we're hoping to be able to assess some of the damage and see exactly what went on. I know that we've seen some things from social media, some video, but our crew is there. Dwan, can you hear us? All right, we're seeing a picture there. Dwan, can you hear it? Can you hear us? I'm not sure, but I know that it looks like that is some power lines
Mic check,
down
1,
in
2,
that
3, 4.
area.
Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dwan, can you hear us?
Can you hear us now? All right, as he's getting set up, let me just tell you the Nash County Sheriff's Office said that they were responding to damage or obstruction in the Red Oak Dortches area. Downed power lines and trees from the storm. That looks like that may be it right there. They say Green Hills Road is currently shut down due to trees blocking the road. Other roads in Nash County also may be affected by this, so they're asking folks to just to stay at home and to not get into these situations if they can.
Wow,
got
I know
program in
that.
my ear.
Okay, Dwan, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Dwan? I know they're getting a mic check for Dwan. Guys, Quaylen and Steve, I know when you see the aftermath of some of these storms, they just showed a really, the videographer on the scene, if you could show us that path and you see where the lines are down, there's Dwan, but you got it almost like you can see the path through that area where you see the debris, the trees down, the power lines down. I know the camera's kind of shaky right now, but if we can get a good shot of that, I don't know if they can hear us, but it was really kind of powerful. You can almost see where that,
Right now, this
where the
is
storm
Dwan
went
Hogarth.
through.
We're live as we speak in Nash County, not too far from Hunter Hill Road and Northern Nash Road. This is in the town of Red Oak. A lot of what you're seeing right now is that tornado damage that our meteorologist Steve Stewart and Quaylen Murphy have been talking about. We literally rolled up just about 3 to 5 minutes ago, and we came upon all of this damage here. Roads in each direction. You're looking at exactly of what you would be seeing right now. There's down trees, down power lines. A few residents are milling about just trying to find out exactly what they can do next. Of course, we would be remiss if we did not mention that if you are in this area, you are advised to stay away. Emergency crews have already said that if you are in the area, we've already seen detours go in and around the area, but emergency crews are advising that you stay away from this area for folks who are looking to grab any pictures or any video as to what's happening here. From what I can best assume, there are still likely residents, if they have not evacuated already, still down there in their homes or nearby assessing some of that damage. We're seeing emergency crews to my immediate right. They are just now coming up to the scene, trying to figure out exactly what's going on. To my immediate left, there are a few what appear to be power crews just trying to maintain some of the situation out here. This looks like to be the fire responders from the town of Coopers. With what you see here, and it's a little bit difficult to explain because of where I am standing. Just on the other side of these trees, we can already tell as my photographer Dave Anderson and I drove up, just saw a field littered of trees that have been snapped in half. Branches were already down. We know that there are homes on the other side of this. A few concerned citizens, concerned neighbors have already come up to this scene to find out a little bit what's going on with their homes. Dave, if I can have you zoom in a little bit and see some of those downed trees. I'll walk over here to my left and see what it is that I can find. Of course, being as safe as possible. Again, more downed trees, quite a bit of damage here. This road is completely impassable. So again, good luck even trying to get down this way if you are in the area. Emergency crews have already said that they've shut down parts of I-95 in Nash County because of that damage. We've seen a lot of that detour happen in the area.
I think he said it. But I can't
Dwan,
remember. Hey,
Dwan,
Okay,
if
so
you can
from
hear
my
me.
vantage point to where I have relocated to, I do see a field. Dave, I can have you come down this way quite a bit, and I'll have Dave take a look at exactly what I'm looking at here. If I could give you a best guess, I would say it is a couple of football fields long in terms of how far this damage does spread. Dave, if I have you stand right here and point over in this direction, we see a couple of trees that completely got chopped in half there from some of that heavy wind damage that made its way through this area. And Dave, that'll be to about your 2 o'clock here. And you see two fire responders here from the town of Coopers. They just rolled up about 2 minutes ago. They're making their way here through the neighborhood, still looking for any residents who may still be milling about. It's a little bit difficult to see if there's been any structure damage as of yet from where I'm standing. And again, with what you're looking at, this is in the town of Red Oak. not far from Hunter Hill Road as well as Northern Nash Road. A lot of downed trees.
Okay.
I do see a woman here in the backyard. We spoke with her just a few moments ago. Michelle, I want to say, is her name. She has a house just on the other side of these trees. Dave, watch your step, would you? It looks like she appears to be in her backyard surveying some of the damage. Her home does appear, from where I'm standing, to be relatively untouched, but still in her backyard, quite a bit of downed trees. Dave, I think this is the woman we were speaking with earlier, right here in her backyard. And if Dave pans his camera there looking farther down the road, you can just tell all these trees down. There are a few power lines scattered about this road here, one lane each direction. And wish we could tell you about how far down this damage goes, but it's a little bit difficult to tell from where we're standing how far back this damage does go.
What's the meteorologist? So is it Dawn coming in? Or
Stephen and Don.
I'll be here until Dawn gets here, but she's going to go.
okay.
Hey, we are hot. First, we want to say, Dewan, thank you for that report. Secondly, please make sure that you're giving yourself an opportunity to be safe too with those down power lines, because things are live. Safety is key as we give our updates to our viewers. Meteorologist Steve Stewart is here with more tips on staying safe with down power lines.
You might see a lot of this all along where we saw that rotation. If you see down power lines, you'll want to stay at least 30 feet away from them. They can be energized. They can energize the ground. The ground could be wet. And listen, stay away from them. Call the utility company immediately because it's just that dangerous. And you never obviously want to touch a power line. Even if you think that, oh, the power's been cut, we just need to move these lines and get them off our property. Don't do it. Let the professionals come out. They will handle it. It's just too dangerous. Just stay away from them. Even using items that are not typically conductive can still cause serious injuries. So we beg you to stay away. We're going to see a lot of these power lines down because we had so many trees that were knocked down as that line moved on through. And right now there's no severe weather around here. Matter of fact, we're back to sunshine here. Little cells are starting to pop up in this really unstable environment. There you see up here, this is where we had that tornadic cell that moved across the region, and now it continues to race off to the north and the east. And if I show you the rotation, this is what was impressive. Let me go ahead and make this a 2-hour loop here. So all along where the radar was depicting potential rotation, that's where we're seeing the damage report. Let me go ahead and put this into motion all along this area here. This is where we have that damage reported in multiple areas. And some of these are out in, away from homes, so they're kind of just some trees and stuff. But obviously that moved right across 95, which our understanding is part of 95 is closed for now. Likely they're going to be removing some debris out there so they can get the 95 open again here relatively soon. But we're not seeing any issues around here locally. That system is moving on out, but we're starting to see little storms popping up now just north of Mingo. That is not severe, but that's a heavy downpour. The environment is very unstable. Our dew points are in the mid to even upper 70s. There is so much juice available to these storms that we could see these really start to rocket up here pretty soon. There's a couple little tiny ones trying to develop around Henderson. This one pulsed back down, so we're not too worried about that. But we're going to keep an eye out as we go through time here and just watch and see if we get any more, because we have a risk for severe weather for the rest of the afternoon and evening. And I would say the main risk of that is going to be from the triangle southward. That's going to be our highest probability. And anytime you have what we have now, which is a lot of sunshine, instability, heat, and humidity, we're going to start seeing some more thunderstorms firing up here as we take you through the late day into the evening hours. Still at a level 1 risk for severe weather today and tomorrow. We're going to do this all over again as we're going to have a level 2 risk down in the Sandhills and a level 1 risk elsewhere. We'll have much more.
interrupt this program for breaking news from ABC 11 Eyewitness News. We interrupt this program for breaking news from ABC 11 Eyewitness News.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We are coming to you now with breaking news as there has been a tornado confirmed on the ground near Battleboro, the Battleboro neighborhood north of Rocky Mount in Nash County.
Yeah, as you know, we have been on the air and ABC11.com for the better part of the last 90 minutes, walking you through every step of this tornado warning. And while Quaylen and Steve Stewart were walking us through it, there was a tornado that touched down on the ground in many parts of Nash County. We immediately dispatched a breaking news crew. Dewan Hogard is on the ground in Nash County. He's in Rocky Mount. Dewan, walk us through what you're seeing.
Well, Joel, for starters, I'll go ahead and let everybody know that we are in the town of Red Oak, actually. And if I have photojournalist Dave Anderson point the camera down the road here, just an entire mess. And this is only a fraction, and I cannot even overemphasize the fact that this is just a fraction of some of the damage that has happened here since we've come up. Dave and I, we've literally been on this road because we have not been able to drive our vehicle here into the neighborhood where there is a lot of more trees that are down. Power lines are down as well. It actually does stretch several football fields long, if I had to give my best guess. Now, as I was walking around just surveying some of the damage, I ran into a gentleman by the name of Scott. Scott, if I'll have you come in here. Now, Scott, he was working on a home in the subdivision not too far from where we are. Walk me and my viewers through what you heard, what you saw, and then what happened next.
We was in there. We do kitchen installs. I was in there putting the handles on in the bathroom upstairs. Heard the wind blowing, saw hail. Came outside and saw a couple of debris flying across the yard. Saw the wind heard the wind, and a bunch of tree limbs and all that flying around. And we came outside probably 5 minutes later and seen all the trees down, the power out.
And then how's it been since you've walked out? Because you said that the homes that you were working on is just kind of beyond us down to where those down trees are.
Yeah, you can't get access down there with a car or nothing. Some big trees down.
So when you guys walked out the house from hearing all of that and seeing everything, how's it been walking up the road and just seeing some of the damage?
Not good. Not good. We got lucky down there too for just hitting the houses here.
Had you been somewhere else, would have been a lot worse?
Possibly. If we were up here doing something, we could have been involved in it. But down there, to be lucky and I hit the house down there, be very lucky.
And have you seen anything like this in all your years working?
No, I haven't. First time. First time.
Take a lot to process, does it?
Yes, it does. Being in it, yeah. And it rolling right around you, to roll to a different place, yeah. Scary.
Well, I'm glad you are safe. I'm glad your colleague is safe. By all means, please watch your step with these down trees, any nails, power lines, and whatnot. Glad that you're doing all right. And if you can, stay connected to us as well as what the emergency crews are communicating. Thank you.
Thank you.
But back here, Dave, if I have you walk with me here in the town of Red Oak, and if you would, Dave, just watch your step here with what's on the ground. When we did walk up, we ran into a woman. Her name was Michelle, and Michelle owns the home, or at least stays in the home, that's to my immediate left here. And when we arrived, she had told us that she was just trying to get to her home because the road here where the the speed limit sign is, that was blocked off from where she is, right in front of you. Just be careful. But she owns this house in front of us, and she was trying to get here. So just a few minutes before we came on air, we saw Michelle and what I presume to be either some friends or some family neighbors, some family members or neighbors. They were all gathered out across her front yard talking about what they see. There's a gentleman walking in the backyard, right behind you. There's a gentleman walking right in the backyard. Again, I assume that he lives here in the neighborhood, just trying to get an idea of what has happened here. But it is really difficult from our vantage point to get a good idea as to how how extensive this damage is. We do have Chopper 11 on the way to get a much better view from the sky, just to give you a better bird's eye view of exactly what we're looking at. But if you are in this area, emergency crews, especially from the Nash County Sheriff's Office, they are advising that if you're nearby, find an alternate route to where you need to be, and please, by all means, stay away from this area. They're advising that people don't come by for any pictures or for any video, so emergency crews and first responders can take care of the work that they need to do out here in the town of Red Oak. Joel, Amber?
Dewan, don't go anywhere here. Again, we are live in Nash County. We're live in Red Oak. That was Dewan Hogard, first on the scene for ABC 11, and you can see some of that heavy equipment starting what will be a long process of clearing some of the trees here. Dewan, if you can still hear me, remind us again what road you're on.
Yeah, so it's a little bit difficult to tell the road, but we are not far from the road that we turned on to get down here. And if someone has a map right in front of them, that's certainly handy. I'll try to pull one up on my phone as I am speaking. But we did turn on Northern Nash Road. That was the nearest major road from where we were. And I'm pulling up Google Maps here, assuming that the cell signal is okay. It appears that we are on green.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we are on Green Hills Road. That's what it appears to be where we are on. But we turned off of, I believe it was US 64 in Nash County, and then made our way down what was Hunter Hill Road near the town of Red Oak. And then from there we ended up making another turn onto, that was Northern Nash Road is where we were. So Dave is showing you exactly where these crews are doing some of the work. This is a brand new D.R. Horton subdivision that crews are building right to about the 1 o'clock of your screen, if I can best give my best guess, Joel. Yeah. But again, a lot of trees down. We're trying to stay as safe as possible as we can, but a lot of cleanup is going to need to be done by a lot of the crews and the homeowners.
Yeah, just as city and county officials are telling folks to stay where they are and don't do any tornado tourism at this point. Don't go taking pictures. Stay in. We want you to be safe as possible. And you can see as many trees that are down there on Green Hills Road in Red Oak. I'm sure that scene is being played out on several streets in Red Oak and Dortches and so many of those Nash County communities. And those trees are next to power lines, and we can see those power lines in you and Dave's picture there have been taken out, and folks, we do not know if those lines are still live, so it's best just to stay indoors.
Yeah, so we want to go to some of the power outages that we are just now seeing as we're seeing the downed trees and the damage. Our first images coming back here. So as far as active outages, we're only getting reports of about 20 customers right now that have active outages. Customers without power, 908. Total customers served, though, in this area, 25,000. So they are working on repairing or restoring some of that power in the area right now. And of course, those are just the initial numbers coming in. Actually, it looks like 673. It might have grown there without power as we're just getting this. You're seeing this in real time too. And I'm going through social media. If you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. Just looking, assessing some of the pictures that are coming in on social media. And there is extensive damage to some homes, lots of power lines down. It looks like trees down as well, as we're seeing. And I just called Red Oak Town, the town center, and the person who answered just said, I'm here by myself. I can confirm there's a tornado, and no one else is here. They've all gone out. So it sounds like the community is now starting to head out to try to respond to the damage there. Looks like there are definitely some homes damaged, some cars as well, power lines down, trees down, and you know, we're still getting the assessments here. And our meteorologists, of course, were tracking this system, which I believe came from the west. It was a line of storms that came from Charlotte.
Here's our first photo here. This is from Preston Harris on Twitter. Not sure what this building is on the right, but you can see that massive cloud system there atop it and the tornado peaking down. But it was big. Most of the videos that I've seen on social show just how wide this thing was, and people just watching from afar and amazed. But some of the first pictures that we've gotten cleared here on ABC 11 giving us an up-close look of this tornado that hit the ground this afternoon in Nash County, Red Oak, Dortches, and several other communities. Steve Stewart standing by in the First Alert Storm Center. He was tracking it every step of the way.
You know, I got to tell you, Joel, just to See how it held together as it moved across basically the entire viewing area, but it's a narrow area. This loop, I went back 6 hours. You can almost see that rotation as it moved across the entire area, but at the very tail end of it, that's when we actually had enough rotation to spawn that tornado. But yeah, 6 hours ago, it was just coming into Chatham County, moved right across Wake County. Rainfall rates were impressive at 1 to 2 inches per hour. Now we're in the clear as far as rain is concerned. Let me go ahead and show you. This is out of our viewing area now, but we have a few little cells that are starting to pop up, and it's not severe at this point in time. We're still under a level 1 risk. There's not as much rotation available as it was earlier, but I will say this, with dew points right now in the mid to upper 70s, I don't have to tell you, it feels sultry out there. Upper 70 dew points in Clinton. Look at Goldsboro, 77. You factor that with 80s and 90s, and on top of that, we have basically sunshine. We just have some fair weather clouds right now, little cumulus clouds, but you look at this, anytime you see that much clearing, that tells us we can really differentially heat the surface, and that air is going to rise up rapidly. And when that happens, we can get some thunderstorms that develop quickly. So we're not in the clear. We're probably going to get some more scattered thunderstorms. Not everyone's going to get them, but the ones that develop have potential to really grow into the atmosphere, and we can get some stronger storms later on this afternoon into the evening. And then on top of that, tomorrow, there's another risk for severe weather. Tomorrow, the difference, we have upper level support. That, coupled with differential heating and the high dew points, means we could have an even more active day tomorrow. So things we're going to be watching here in the Weather Center very closely over the next couple of days. But as I said, things are quiet right now as far as the radar is concerned. I'll keep going, producer, until you want me to toss to somebody. So let me go ahead and take you back in time again. We're going to take this back about 2 hours, and I am going to choose I have to choose a different radar. We're going to choose Wakefield. And so what this was the couplet, and I'm going to take you back. I'm going to have to go back this far, and you see, this is what we call a couplet. Anytime you see the red and that bright color really close together like that, that's a good indication that you got winds moving one way at 54, 16 the other, so that's 70-mile-an-hour winds. That is a really impressive couplet. And notice too, there's some range rings, don't worry about that. Let me zoom it out just a little bit for you. See, it's still a strong couplet just south of Whitaker's, and this was at 1250, and then it started weakening. Still there just before it got to Scotland Neck, and then the warning was allowed to expire. We've lost that rotation. Now, does it mean that they're not going to have severe weather to our north and east? No, there's actually a tornado watch up there that does include Northampton County, but that's really for the cell that we're seeing right now. I really feel that we're in the clear there. But what we're going to watch for the rest of the area is seeing some thunderstorms that are going to develop a little bit later on. We're seeing a couple little ones right now, but again, the atmosphere is really ripe that we're going to get some stronger cells popping up here fairly shortly. So. And the rainfall was impressive too. All along where that little band moved, we had Doppler estimates in some cases upwards over 2 inches of rainfall. North Raleigh there, my house, I got just over an inch of rain. So that was an impressive amount of rainfall for that one cell to really hold together. So we were all very impressed with the fact that it did hold together. But now our concern is more convective in nature. We're not going to see one cell that moves across the entire area. We're going to start seeing these individual cells like this pop up. The one just north of Bentonville, the one just to the west of Newton Grove. We're going to see these start to grow into the atmosphere and potentially get close enough to being to severe criteria. But again, it's a level 1 risk as we go throughout the day. Today and tomorrow, we could have a more active day, Joel and Amber.
Steve, as you're there, just quick question as we're talking about this. This was that same system that we had rain in Raleigh. I was driving to Chapel Hill at one point. I was drenched in rain. It's that same cell. Is there anything about what was happening in the air in Nash County, in Rocky Mount, that made that especially?
Yeah, maybe if you could back us up and kind of tell us how this system moved in, where it came from, and just kind of the conditions. I'm sure there was a lot of CAPE in the atmosphere that really added to the spin up here. So maybe you could just explain from the atmospheric conditions and the standpoint kind of how everything would have been right for this to just happen very quickly as well.
As you're doing that, Steve, we're looking at live pictures from Dortches. This is in Nash County.
Oh boy. Yeah, this is clear indication. I mean, listen, the National Weather Service is heading out right now. They tweeted just a little while ago, not tweeted, but they told us that they're heading out to do a survey. They're probably almost there at this point in time. So we're going to get some stats later today, and they're going to tell us what they feel. But just looking at how those trees are snapped off like that, I've seen this enough times. And plus, I had such an impressive hook echo on the radar and a strong couplet. The odds of this being straight line winds are slim to none. I think this was a tornado, but you factor what they're going to tell us is how strong was the tornado. Was it an EF 0, 1, or 2? Probably a 0 or 1, but just look at how those trees just snapped. And this happened so fast. You know, you've seen videos of folks, you know, out the window showing us how fast it deteriorates, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And it's almost tranquil. So it hits hard. You know, you hear it. People always talk about the sounded like a freight train. You know, just like a train comes and then it goes past you and then it's gone. That's kind of the way it is too. So this is a lot of damage.
Yeah, those trees.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a dubious sign. I mean, certainly we've seen straight line winds that can do damage like this. And as I say that, we're getting our first pictures from Chopper 11. Which is over I-95.
What area
Nash
is it?
County.
Just 95. Where
and
did she say?
Highway 140 and I-95, I believe, is what
In Red Oak, and both directions there are looks like are shut down due to the damage from the trees.
And look at that. That's the path.
Yeah.
I mean,
right there.
You're looking at. This is the path of the tornado. Took out those trees in just indiscriminate way, as tornadoes do.
Again, tell me where this is. I'm just trying to write this down. This is I-95 in Nash County, and what is the crossroad? I-40?
142, Jasmine. Right at Dortches. Okay, mile marker 140, I-95, and you can see that traffic backed up on I-95 there. Both directions are shut down near Rocky Mount between exits 138 and exit 141 because it's obvious because of these obstructions. So many trees taken out by this apparent tornado blocking both directions of Interstate 95 right now. And last check from NCDOT, the interstate may reopen by 4 p.m. They're advising drivers to avoid this area altogether. So that's damage on the transportation front. Both directions of I-95 closed down because of this tornado through Nash County, and then we are also still getting damage reports from across the area as well. But you can see cleanup crews, NCDOT on the scene right now on I-95.
So if you're just joining us here at 2:22, we are following breaking news, cutting into regular programming at this hour due to what appears to be a confirmed tornado on the ground from people that have been spotting it that went through Nash County. It looks from what our first images are, we are seeing that it might have been several miles of damage that it touched down on the ground. That tornado watch continues until 7 p.m. this evening for parts of Virginia and North Carolina. That's according to the National Weather Service. So the conditions are just extremely ripe right now. You can see two people there hugging. This is extremely an emotional scene for a lot of people. That looks like one of the emergency responders there.
Yeah, that might be a sheriff's deputy as well. You can see just this is an extremely rural area. I mean, we're live in Dortches right now. Dortches is a small town in Nash County, less than 1,000 people. Maybe just over 300 households, but extremely tight-knit as well. I'm not sure of the street that we are live on in Dortches right now, but a few homes, and my bet is they all knew each other, and this may be one of the worst things that they've all experienced today. We're not sure of the extent of the damage to all of those homes, but what we can tell in these live pictures is that it's bad. There are a lot of trees that are down. There are trees that took out those power lines, and we may be able to presume from this point there's some trees that took out these homes, if not the winds from this tornado that took out some homes. We do not have any reports of injuries or loss of life, and we hope not to get those. But it certainly is a possibility with a storm like this.
Chopper 11 is flying over the area right now, just kind of giving us a bird's eye view. And you can see here, this area looks like it appears to be okay. But as they pull back and they go back to the area where you can see really from the air, you can see a pathway of destruction. I think they're trying to zoom into some of those trees that are just taken down there. But as they pull back over 95, we will see what appears to be kind of a pathway. So whenever you have storms of this magnitude, there can be straight line winds on the outskirts, and then you could have, of course, the rotation that is touching down in areas, and that can continue for several miles. So that appears, as you can see, it just kind of looks like it just flattens everything.
There's the path again, and there what appears to be a structure. Chopper 11, just pan back again and show me what that was behind that larger house. But that was a small subdivision, a cul-de-sac. What appeared to be, most of the houses seemed to be intact, but we saw Chopper 11 just scan over what appeared to be not trees, but a structure, a part of a house that may have been damaged. But you can see just this indiscriminate path that tornadoes take. You can see a house fully intact on one side of a street, and then a house that's gone on another. And there we go, zooming back in. So I'm seeing vehicles, I see a truck, and what appears to be some kind of building, maybe in the back of that white home that's been destroyed.
We're working to get the sheriff on the line here so we can try to get some more information from Sheriff Stone of Nash County. But in the meantime, as our control room continues to work on connecting us to the sheriff, we're going to go to Dewan Hogard. He is on the ground there in Nash County. Dewan, I know that you're just arriving and assessing things. What have you learned just since you've just arrived, and are you seeing first responders now? It looks like you probably have some eyewitness accounts.
Yeah, Amber, actually being down here on the ground, it is quite significant and pretty unbelievable. You have to see it with your own eyes just to get an idea of just how destructive this tornado was. Now, the good news is that from what we've been able to see, home damage has been very minimal, but it's that cleanup effort that is going to take a lot of sweat equity from emergency crews and some of the homeowners that live here. To my immediate right, left here is a gentleman by the name of Todd Mercer. We spoke with his wife just a few moments ago before we hopped into this complete breaking news coverage. And Todd was just telling me that he was at the store when all of this happened. He ran home. It took him about an hour to get home in this very small town because roads have been closed and emergency crews had roads blocked. But Todd, if you would explain for everyone watching, how is it coming back to your home and seeing all of this?
It's unreal when you first walk and see it because you think you're at a different residence. You don't think it's your house. And you know, I've had storm damage before, but nothing to this level. About 75% of the trees in my property are either destroyed or damaged, but it's devastating. It may take a while to clean up.
And you were telling me that you were a Raleigh native, you lived through Fran, you experienced all of that. Where does this rank in comparison at all for you?
Well, this is more localized. Obviously, Fran was, it affected a lot of people, but this is a small area that it's affected. But I understand it made a path through here. I don't know how far it continued its devastation, but it's a whole lot smaller scale. But a whole lot more trees down in this area.
And then when we hopped in your truck, and again, thank you so much for giving us a ride here. When we hopped in as we were driving up, just kind of surveying the land damage here, you've never seen anything quite like this before.
No, it's going to take a lot to clean it up. It's going to take more than hand power. It's going to take some equipment to move all this stuff. But yeah, I got a lot of big stuff down. But yeah, it's going to take a while.
And tell us, you've been home. Have you had a chance to take a look at anything? How are things at your home?
It just minor damage, some shingles off the house, but the house was untouched. Unfortunately, the large pine trees, they blew in the opposite direction, so nothing physically hit the house of any large scale, just minor damage to the house. I'm fortunate in that respect.
Well, Todd Mercer, appreciate it. Thank you for the ride. We certainly appreciate it. Hope all is well with your home. Again, we are continuing to track all of what's happening here on the ground in Nash County in the town of Red Oak. We'll be here for quite some time talking with residents and emergency crews just to get a good idea as to how far this damage went.
Okay, thanks.
Dewan, you're still on Green Hills Road as far as you know?
Yes, so we're one street over. We're in a small cul-de-sac here, but Green Hills Road is right here behind me. It's the next road that is actually on the other side of these two homes that you see here behind me. That's Green Hill, which runs in both directions there. But we're here in the neighborhood in a small cul-de-sac, Joel.
Small cul-de-sac, and as far as you can see and what Todd has seen so far, all those homes are intact, yes?
Yeah, for the most part, they're all intact. If I'll have Dave go ahead and take a few steps up with me and zoom here at this home that's directly in front of me. There's a window that's attached to the garage. We do see that window not completely blown out, but of course that will need to be repaired. To Dave's left here, there's another home that appears to have some trees that have, right over here to your left, Dave, there have been some trees that have fallen on this home. Thankfully, from what we can see, as Todd was mentioning, that damage does appear to be minor, that structural damage that is, but still a lot of cleanup that crews and neighbors will have to really focus on when they're moving a lot of these trees to not cause any more damage to their homes. So you can only think about the integrity of what's left of these trees. Even the tree that's directly here in front of me, you see these branches completely snapped off, and this is one of these smaller trees that we have actually seen here in the neighborhood. If you move over to my left, and when we were Todd was driving us in, some of the larger trees just completely snapped in half. They're absolutely curved, so you can just imagine how heavy that wind force was to do something to a tree of that size, Joel.
Okay, Dewan, thank you. Let's go back to Chopper 11 and tell us where Chopper 11 is right now, because we're seeing some pretty stunning damage from it. It's in Nash County, yes, in looking down on Dortches, and just, my goodness.
These houses are, some of them just completely devastated. You're looking at roofs torn off of some of the homes. It was interesting before, because from Dewan's perspective, where he was describing the scene of what he was seeing, but of course we get such a vast scale when the chopper is up, and that's what we're seeing from our chopper now, where you can see very significant damage.
Look at that.
And it just leveled some of the homes. You see some of the debris wrapped up in the trees there. We do know that I-95 is shut down right now, but near Rocky Mount between exits 138 and 141, and the DOT is working to clear that. That is due to the debris that is blocking that interstate, but what we are seeing here is what happened just several miles over.
Yeah, this is down in Dortches, and this is absolutely stunning. These are people's homes that have been completely wiped out. Some of them mobile homes, some of them freestanding structures. You can see the roofs ripped off of some, and then, you know, like we talked about, just indiscriminate tornadoes. Right across the street, there's a home completely intact.
Wow.
Chief Meteorologist Don Schwenniker is here as well as we look at these pictures from Chopper 11. And Don, you weigh in here too. You're not just a meteorologist, you also served as a first responder, and you're getting your first look at some of these pictures.
Yeah, and what we're seeing is widespread damage. What the National Weather Service will look for, and what we will look for, first of all, you look to see which way the damage is laying. So is it all in one direction, or are there signs that it's laying in different directions? That can show rotation. It can show the size of the storm as it works through and the size of the tornado. Now, as we zoom in, this is looks like a home that's anchored to the ground, and this scene right here is a good example of a home versus a mobile home. Just to the left of that is a mobile home, and that's been pushed off its structure. Mobile homes are not made to withstand tornadic winds, even if they have tie downs. That's why we advise people to get out of mobile homes if a tornado is headed in. The National Weather Service actually has different standards they can look for to determine how strong this tornado is when they make their final factor. Was it an F1, an EF3, an EF2, whatever? Part of that has to do with the damage and what is damaged. A brick structure will take higher wind damage than a wood structure, and that will take higher wind damage than a steel shed or whatever. So they will look at the type of materials. How are they damaged? How are they affected by other materials? And how thick are the trees? You can see some of the trees, the tops are ripped completely off those. You know those giant pines where they have the big bushy areas on top? It'll take that whole top off. And so they'll look at the width of the trees to see how the damage occurred and what type of damage occurred when they make their final assessment. This thing was on the ground for a while.
Yeah.
We will wait for the National Weather Service assessment.
What was that the first couplet that Steve talked about was 12:36, and this morning went to 1:30.
Yeah, and that's almost a full hour, but beyond that, I was just looking at the couplets on radar. If we could go to First Alert Doppler, I want to show you this real quick. By the way, if you're just joining us, it's 2:34 in the afternoon. There are a couple of storms starting to fire. They are not severe. I do not want anybody worried about what's out there right now. We are monitoring those storms down in southern Johnston County, northern Sampson County, some lightning firing with those. We'll zoom down into those first and show you what's going on. I'm not exactly sure why my computer skipped. Just stay with me. Let me go right back. Live coverage, this happens sometimes. So here is First Alert Doppler. We're going to zoom down into that area down to the south, and you'll notice these storms firing now between Nahunta, Goldsboro, Bentonville. These are not severe, but they have so much moisture in the atmosphere to work with. They're going to put down heavy rainfall. There's lightning associated with them, and so we will be monitoring those, making sure that they do not become something that we need to deal with later on. Let's go up to the area that was affected right now. I want to show this to you. So we're going to back the radar up first and show you what we're looking at. Here's the storm as it worked through, and the actual rotation started north and west of Spring Hope. I'll put a little picture on there, a drawing on there, so you can see. Here's the rotation near Nashville, starting to that hook in that echo, right? And so this was around 12:15. We think the tornado first warning was issued around 12:30 to 12:40. This is 12:26 near Red Oak. You can see that rotation starting to happen. Again, see the hook in the radar? That's the storm rotating in on itself, and that's also where the tornado is most likely to occur. Now we'll zoom it out a little bit and we'll watch where that hook goes, and you'll notice that hook is going to push up to the north and to the east. And there's the easy to spot hook east of I-95. There it is crossing I-95 when it happened, and that was around 12:35. Then it works up north of Leggett. It's headed toward Northampton County. This is at 1 o'clock. It's crossing over into Scotland Neck. A lot of lightning associated with that as well. There was a study done, I believe it was by Texas or Oklahoma, University of Texas or Oklahoma, that showed with stronger tornadoes, there's an increase in lightning bolts. So if we see a spike in lightning bolts, that can actually show an intensity change in that tornado, and then it pushes off to the north and east. But I want to change modes on the radar. This is something that's been new over the years. It's called storm relative velocity, and we talk about this. When we see the green and we see the burgundy stuck together, and you can see them stuck together right there, let me take that white line off there for a second, because I want to show you what I'm talking about first, and then we'll come back to it. So we'll turn off that white line just for a minute, get rid of it. We'll back this up. So right there where we see the purple and green together, or the burgundy and green together, that's where the rotation is happening inside the storm. That's an easy way for us to spot rotation. Radar can be used in a bunch of different ways. We can actually see the debris come up from a tornado. We can actually see differences in the atmosphere. So what I did is I went back and looked where that rotation starts to occur, just east of Nashville, south of Red Oak, crosses I-95. And it's occurring as it passes south of Whitakers and crosses 301 between Whitakers and Rocky Mount, and then it moves up to the north and to the east. Now, let's go back to this. I plotted every one of those rotations we saw, so we can actually look at that rotation and see the path from just east of Nashville is where that rotation started, and it goes all the way up as it gets into Northampton County. Here's the last part of the math equation. We actually have what's called a measuring tool on here. We can actually see how long this path is. And notice this thing has the potential, we'll wait from the National Weather Service to make their determination, but it has the potential of being on the ground for over 20 miles. That is a long path tornado for our area. We just do not see those on the ground for that long. All right, I'm told we're getting a chopper over Rocky Mount
they're over
and the Pfizer plant
right now. We were seeing these images on social media of actual photos, and now we're getting the aerials. This is the Pfizer building in Nash County, which you can see severe damage there. And, you know, this is where you ask the questions. What happened on the ground? Were people in the building at the time? Were they able to get out of harm's way? Because you can see significant damage there.
Yeah, biomanufacturing is one of the biggest economic drivers in this part of the state, in Rocky Mount, in Nash County. Lots of people, hundreds of people work at that plant, and they work there every day. This is one of the big economic drivers, and that plant suffered a lot of damage. You can see that roof warped, parts of it torn off. We don't know how many people were in that part of the plant when this happened. And again, we haven't gotten any reports of injuries or death at this point.
I will let you know that
John.
when this was happening, I was doing a Facebook Live from my house showing the radar while Quaylen was on TV. Dalton Leonard, who follows me on Facebook, commented and said, Don, I want to let you know the Pfizer building damaged in Rocky Mount. Several people hurt there. My brother-in-law works there and just called me to let me know what was going on again. So that is a report from a viewer who let me know via my Facebook Live that there were injuries. At least he had been told that through a family member who worked there.
Okay, family member of his.
His brother-in-law works in the Pfizer
hurt.
building, and his name was Dalton Leonard. And so he was one of the first ones to let me know while I was talking on Facebook. I would assume his brother-in-law is okay since he was able to call him, or at least doing all right. But that is, you can tell, those big, and the problem with manufacturing buildings and big buildings like that, it is a big target. There's a lot of hollow space underneath. Even though the structure is built with steel, if wind gets up under those roofs, it can pull them off quickly, and it makes a big target for the tornado to hit. So you can see right now that live look at Rocky Mountain, what's happened at the Pfizer building there.
Yeah, we are working right now. I'm actually texting with the Sheriff of Nash County, Keith Stone. He said that, producers, if you're listening, he said if you call him on his cell right now, we can get him up on the air so he can talk about what he is seeing on the ground there. We're working to also check in with the hospitals to see if they are responding to any injuries or patients directly from this. So we're working to confirm a lot of this information, but we are tracking this in real time. And I just checked with the Department of Public Service, and there's about 1,451 power outages just in Nash County. So it's definitely the highest in the state right now. Edgecombe also has 758 as well, Don.
And guys, I just have to tell you real quick, the National Weather Service has just issued a new severe thunderstorm warning, not for that area. If we can go to Weather 3, I'm zoomed in on it right now on Weather 3. A severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for Johnston, Sampson, and Wayne counties. The severe thunderstorm warning indicates Doppler radar estimates of 60-mile-an-hour or more winds and hail up to 1 inch in diameter. Johnston, Sampson, and Wayne counties now under a severe thunderstorm warning. This includes Newton Grove. It's west of Grantham. It is moving off to the east, that storm moving east, and we'll be working across southern Wayne County over the next half hour. I want to switch modes on the radar and actually go to our severe mode. I want to see if we're able to detect any hail inside that storm. We have a hail detection logarithm that works, and we'll take a look and see if they're seeing any hail with that severe thunderstorm warning. I know we're seeing the live damage up to the north, but we also are tracking other storms right now that are severe down to the south, and Hail Tracker is showing the potential for hail on the southern side of Newton Grove. Again, this is on Weather 3. If we could take a look at Weather 3, that's where the severe thunderstorm warning is for the potential hail between Van Crossroads, Newton Grove. This is running along I-40 at this hour, and we'll press off to the south and to the east. Again, the National Weather Service issuing a severe thunderstorm warning. I'm sorry? Producer, say again? Okay, no problem. They're working on getting Weather 3. That's no problem. I just want to let everybody know where this is happening right now. This is happening down in Sampson County. Any storm that really gets firing today, folks, it just has so much energy in the atmosphere. It's got so much moisture to work with. Heavy rainfall is going to be an issue. There's a little bit of cold air upstairs, and if it taps into that cold air in the upper part of the atmosphere, it will trigger some hail, and that's what we're seeing. This is the area affected right now, south of Bentonville, Newton Grove, Van Crossroads. This is moving off toward Grantham. Mount Olive, you're in this warning as well, and this will continue to press off to the south and to the east. If we look at this over the past half hour, it's really just kind of blown up in this area, and it's the potential for damaging winds in excess of straight line winds in excess of 60 miles an hour with this storm. And now that we're on Weather 3, I want to show you our hail tracker, where we see that orange there south of Newton Grove. That's potential hail. Doesn't mean we're seeing it. It means we could be seeing it. That would be pea to dime size hail inside that orange cell that will be pressing off toward places like William R. King Road, Creel Road, Dobbersville, St. George's Chapel Road, Hollingsworth, Suttontown, Odom Mills. If you're in these areas, you need to get your cars in the garage if they're outside to protect you from that hail that's working through. But again, a new severe thunderstorm warning in effect. That runs until 3:30 this afternoon for that area as that storm continues to work through. Any other storms around the region? There are some stronger showers starting to fire right over Goldsboro as well. This is not severe at the moment. From Nahunta to Goldsboro and then back toward Bentonville, but that's going to put down some very heavy rainfall, lots of lightning in Goldsboro in the next 15 minutes. Those are the only active warnings right now in our area. Again, that new severe thunderstorm warning just issued by the National Weather Service.
Okay, some storms still active right now, but we continue our breaking news coverage of the storm that blew through Nash County earlier today. If we go back to those live pictures from Chopper 11, the chopper over Rocky Mount right now, and what you're looking at is the Pfizer plant, this huge biomanufacturing plant that makes so many popular drugs and been in Rocky Mount for several years, and was also planning an expansion in the coming months and years. And it looks like a gigantic freight train hit the building, and you can see the roof smashed, parts of it gone. There were many people inside this building when the tornado blew through, and one of our viewers contacted Don Schwennecker on Facebook and said he has a family member who was inside the plant, and that viewer told Don that at least several people were hurt. That is as far as we know. We're working on getting some official information from Nash County, but you can see those cars in the parking lot. There were people there. There were people working. You can see all those trucks. This is an active place, a 24/7 kind of operation.
This is a massive operation, a massive manufacturing plant there in Rocky Mount, a significant employer in that area as well. So many families are tied in some way to Pfizer, with family members that work there or friends. And obviously that is one area that was hit very hard from this line of storms. It looks like a potential tornado that went through Nash County this afternoon. That is what we're seeing there with Pfizer. And of course, we're also seeing some incredible damage to homes as well. We should let you know, if you're just joining us, that 95 is also closed right now in Nash County at around Dortches, which is mile marker 140. They are working to reopen that roadway there, the interstate, but it's just a lot of trees in both directions. So there are going to be significant delays on folks traveling on 95 as well. And our Dewan Hogard is on the ground, and he's talking to some folks, some eyewitnesses that are describing what they see, what they saw, what they heard. And they all really just say the same thing. It happened very quickly. One person said they were in their car on social media, and all of a sudden the back window just blew out of their car while they were just sitting in their car. So, you know, this is the thing. When you have this instability, they can happen very quickly. That spin up can happen very quickly.
Yeah.
And you can see just the damage, a very powerful system that moved through Nash County. Of course, first responders are also just assessing the situation. We are trying to get the sheriff on the line. If producers can call him, he said he's ready to talk to us live on the air. If you can call the sheriff on his cell phone, he's standing by to talk to us right now and give us some information. So he can give us an assessment of what he is seeing. And I know that they're just now starting to get out there and assess the damage as well. We don't know any word yet on injuries,
right,
which that's a big question.
Damage reports, though, coming in from all across the area, and you can get an idea of how widespread the damage reports will be when you listen to Don and Steve and Quaylen talk about just how long this tornado was on the ground. 20 miles the tornado traveled. And most of the damage there in Nash County. What we've seen so far has been from Red Oak and from Dortches, the Pfizer plant in Rocky Mount. This is Chopper 11 from earlier, back in Dortches, as far from what I can remember, and some of the homes that were just completely destroyed. You can see that home right there moved off of its foundation and just blown to bits. We don't know if people were inside that home or if people were hurt or if people were killed, but we know this damage for some families has been catastrophic. This is a rural community. Dortches is small, under 1,000 people. Red Oak is small. Rocky Mount is the biggest population center. But some of the damage that we've seen so far, this is a mobile home that you can see also moved off of its foundation, blown apart. Homes, trailers blown into crowds, or into cars, I should say. And we just got this update from the producer. We were talking about Keith Stone, the sheriff. He's going to have a news conference at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. So that may be our first opportunity to hear from him as far as official numbers, as far as casualties, potential fatalities, buildings damaged, and the assessment so far. But we do know at least 1,000 people are without power because of all these trees that have gone down onto power lines. Duke Energy working on that, but the bigger issue is the cleanup at hand. Looking at this picture.
Yeah,
from
I'm just
11.
checking right now on power outages with North Carolina Department of Public Safety. So Edgecombe County is another area that is experiencing some pretty high outages as well. Just 758, which is unusual, of course, just here for a Wednesday afternoon. But Nash is the highest in the state with 1,451. I was just getting another update to see if those numbers had increased. But yeah, they're staying right around there. So Nash is about 1,500. Edgecombe County just over 750. But what we are tracking right now is the tornado damage. So if you're just joining us here at 2:49, we have been following this severe line of storms that came through North Carolina around the noon hour today, and we have been on the air ever since. We're actually going to stay on the air here until 6:30 as we are assessing damage and reports are coming in and press conferences are being called and emergency responders are all on the ground, responding to the damage, responding to possible injuries. This is going to be the start of a long road to recovery. As we know in North Carolina, we see a lot of severe weather in our state, and in this time of year, this is when we have all of that potential energy with all of the heating of the land. This is when we start to see so many issues with the severe weather. So if you're just joining us, we're tracking what appears to be tornado damage.
Chopper 11, do we know where Chopper 11 is over? Is this still the Pfizer plant? Is this another warehouse? This is still the Pfizer plant, which is just a massive piece of property. This is another warehouse at the Pfizer facility, and you can see it looks like a big chunk has been taken out of it. And as we kind of zoom in here, you can see some workers there pulling panels away, some of those steel panels. So many of these buildings at Pfizer have just been destroyed here. Just the worst possible news for Rocky Mount. Again, we don't know about injuries or fatalities, but certainly this is going to have a tremendous economic impact. I was in Rocky Mount, I think with the president's visit, what was that, about a month and a half ago, maybe, and talking to some of the economic development officials out there and the mayor, and they were talking about a town that was bouncing back after the QVC fire and losing that economic driver, and talking about Pfizer's plans, reinvesting in Rocky Mount, and then this tornado just taking this huge chunk out of this building. Several people hurt, according to at least one of our viewers, and this is going to take some time. That other building that we were looking at from Chopper 11, we didn't mention it, but I'm sure you saw it. That big rig out front looked like it was knocked over like a toy, and you can see more of those big rigs and those semis just knocked over outside this warehouse here, and those cars tossed around. Those cars that you see down there are presumably the cars of the workers who parked at this facility and were inside that warehouse working at 12:30 in the afternoon when this tornado blew through. So you think about them and you think about their families and going to work today, and this happened.
Don, did you want to give us an update on any of the watches or any possible warnings that are going on right now?
Yes, so we continue see that warning we're watching down in the southeastern part of the viewing area. It has shrunk a little bit. Severe thunderstorm warning in effect now until 3:30 this afternoon. This one down in southwestern Wayne and northeastern Sampson County. It is out of Johnston County now as it presses off to the south and east. It's working east toward Mount Olive, Brogden. A lot of lightning associated with this as well. Now, if you're watching us in Goldsboro, in Wayne County and north of Goldsboro, there is another line of showers that is not severe at the moment, but it certainly is strong. It has a lot of heavy rain with it, and that is pressing into Goldsboro and downtown Goldsboro over the next half hour. That will work through on down to Brogden. So that is going to be a wet drive, especially as that works through. That is the only area of severe weather at the moment. The area that was affected by the tornado earlier today is now clear, and actually the sun is out, and that's why Chopper 11 is able to fly over that area. We are seeing some development on the backside of that system, just starting to see some storms fire. There's just so much moisture in the atmosphere that back here where the sun is rolling, you may see some storms fire in that region. They're all going to be moving off to the north and to the east, so we'll be keeping an eye on those should anything develop, but those are not severe. We did have the SPC estimates earlier. The SPC, we were in a Category 2 risk for mainly the north and eastern part of the viewing area, and we were in a Category 1 risk for today. Let's go ahead and take a look at tomorrow. Tomorrow could actually be a bit of a challenge as well, as we see. Let me switch modes on the radar here. See if I can get something updated a little bit better for you. There you go. You can see that tomorrow the biggest threat would be off to the south and west through the Sandhills, and then back towards Charlotte. Damaging winds and large hail would be possible as we head through the day on Thursday, and that'll be something to keep an eye on. Live look at First Alert Doppler right now. We're not seeing that heavy rainfall anymore in our area. Let's pop up the radar and show you what's going on. And it just decided to go black. Hold on there. It's loading. The weather computer, there we go, starting to, Weather 3, is it back up now, folks? We might be able to see it on Weather 3 now with Weather Radar as it works through. Sometimes when it updates live on the air and we're switching between things quickly, that'll just drop out. But we're taking a look now at radar to show you where that severe thunderstorm warning is until 3:30 this afternoon. I want to go into that area real quick, and we'll show you that line of showers and storms working off to the east. Brogden, Indian Springs, Goldsboro, you all will see heavy showers over the next half hour or so. This is the area that was affected. We can actually back the radar up 3 hours. It'll take it just a moment to load all that data in, and there's what the hook in the storm system looked like. You can see the hook right there. Let me highlight it with it, make it a little easier to see for you. So here's the storm. Here's the little hook right down there. That's where that rotation would be. So if we move this back and forth, you can see where the storm kind of worked through, and it pressed up to the north and to the east through northern portions of Edgecombe County and then into Northampton County. That is where we saw that storm work through. Now, if we switch modes on the radar, I plotted the places where we saw rotation. This doesn't necessarily mean the tornado was on the ground, but it was a Doppler radar indication of a tornado. And I started with the first time I saw it in Nashville, and I put the little arrowheads there each place I saw it. Just taking a look at the path of this, you can see the storm basically moved off to the north-northeast with the potential for this thing to be on the ground for over 20 miles. Now, I don't know that it was. It may have lifted off at certain points. We'll wait for the site survey to get the official proclamation from the National Weather Service Raleigh. They will send out at least one site survey team, if not two, and take a look at the type of damage and how long it was on the ground, and they will follow that path. That's the great thing about Chopper 11. It can actually show us the path of this storm, which way it headed on the ground. You can see the swirls and the rotations from it as it worked through. But right now, we are just watching that one severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 3:30 this afternoon. It has, they have collapsed it down a little bit. It no longer has Johnston County in it. It is just Sampson and Wayne counties for the next half hour, and that is for the possibility of hail and certainly some gusty winds along that. And that's the only one we'll be watching right now. Now, last night, if you joined us on ABC 11 at 11, we were showing you the latest updates, and we had this storm system working through this morning, and then there was a secondary area of showers firing later on today that we were going to keep our eye on. I have not had a chance to look at that model yet, so let's take a look at it together. We'll see what the models are saying. This is one of our high-resolution models. You can see it's doing a nice job as we walk it ahead. The times on the title there showing those storms thunderstorms that are firing down in Wayne County. It picks up on those. It shows the storm system that moved off to the east, and it blows up a line later today. Now, it may not be raining exactly in these spaces at 8:15 or 8:30, but the potential is there to see some thunderstorms, especially in the Sandhills this evening with this storm, and then down into Sampson County. And then it does try and fire another area of showers between 9 and midnight over the Triangle. That would be great if it were closer to 11 o'clock or midnight, because of course we've got 40,000 people headed to Keenan Stadium for a little bit of a soccer match that everybody's talking about. At this point, I think they'll be able to get it in. It's just toward the end of it, they may see some showers and thunderstorms firing. So if this model holds correct, and then we see the showers dissipating and we go into tomorrow, let's look at tomorrow real quick too. I'm just curious what the model is saying for tomorrow, because the threat is more in the Sandhills tomorrow, and you're seeing that tomorrow evening it's not bully, it's not really showing a ton of storm activity until late tomorrow night, and mainly off to the north and east. But we will keep an eye on that as well. One more time, though, I want to make sure you all know about that severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect for a half hour down in Sampson County and Wayne counties. We'll continue to monitor that. Should any more storms turn severe, we'll, of course, update you as we go. Joel and Amber.
Before we get to our reporters on the ground, Governor Cooper just tweeted out, "I have spoken with the sheriffs of Nash and Edgecombe counties about the tornado damage suffered there a few hours ago. State personnel are helping to get roads open and providing other assistance as needed." So as we know, the governor tested positive for COVID this week, so he is probably not going to be able to go out and assess the damage there, but he is monitoring things from right now inside and speaking with the sheriffs of Nash and Edgecombe counties, because we keep showing the video of Nash County, but there obviously was some damage in Edgecombe County. Edgecombe County with 758 power outages right now, and Nash with about 1,500.
But just hearing from the governor, who, by the way, is a Nash County native, born and raised, but of course at the mansion right now with COVID. You mentioned our reporters on the ground. We've heard from DeJuan Hogard, Sean Coffey at the Pfizer plant. Yeah,
he can't get too close due to the damage that's going on there. So we are seeing some pretty impressive images from our chopper, Sean. So as you can tell us what you're assessing and gathering on the ground from folks there, eyewitnesses and sources, we can also maybe show some of the images from Chopper 11 as you are filling us in.
Yeah, Amber, Joel, it's a pretty difficult scene to see here. It was a mess driving in. You can see we're here on North Wesleyan Boulevard in Rocky Mount. This is the entrance to that Pfizer plant here, and you can see a line of cars all the way back to where that campus opens up and where employees would park. But this is video from earlier from Chopper 11 that shows some of that damage just laid bare here. The Pfizer plant in Rocky Mount, it's actually the city's largest employer, and it appears an entire section of the campus has been really ravaged by that storm earlier. You've heard from my colleagues both on the ground here and in the Weather Center about the damage throughout this entire area, to structures, to trees, to power lines, but I mean, this is the worst that I've seen so far. And just down the road from here, there's a food line, there's a McDonald's, there's a Sheetz, and they all appear to be relatively unaffected compared to this. But it's just a devastating scene here as a section of the roof appears to have caved in, and the plant reduced in sections to a tangle of debris and wires. And we just arrived on scene moments ago, so we're still working to learn more about potential injuries and estimates about how many people, if any, were inside when this all took place. Our ABC 11 First Alert team has discussed in detail that the storm and that confirmed tornado near Battleboro earlier developed very quickly, so you have to hope that folks here had enough time to get to safety and out of that part of the plant and this campus before the damage was inflicted. But the reality is that we just don't know the answer to that in this moment. We'll obviously share any and all updates as we hear them on the ground here. Now, just a short while ago, we did receive a statement from Pfizer on this. They said that they are aware, they acknowledge that there was damage to this campus. They did not go into injuries or potential fatalities or anything in that nature. They did acknowledge it. They said that their thoughts and their prayers are with their workers here. And as DeJuan pointed out earlier from his location in Red Oak, but you can't overstate it. I mean, even these horrifying images here off of North Wesleyan Boulevard in Red Oak, they don't do full justice to the widespread damage that we're seeing here in Nash County. It's everywhere you turn. It was everywhere on our right in here. Roads blocked, debris on the roads, cars stopped, some people out of cars. It's just a complete mess. But obviously here our thoughts are with the folks that work here at this Pfizer plant, their friends, their family, as it appears, unfortunately, a fairly catastrophic event has kind of taken place behind us. We could sort of see as we were driving in on North Wesleyan in the distance some of the damage. You can't see it from our vantage point here, but obviously people leaving and evacuating this part of the plant as we speak. And if you want to turn around here, Jeremy, on the other side, I mean, you can see traffic backed up at least a mile and a half down North Wesleyan Boulevard. This is just a sample of what we saw throughout Nash County as we were driving in here from the west, and everyone here at ABC 11 obviously still working to confirm the extent of the impacts of this storm, and if there are potential injuries. You can come back to us in a little bit. We'll provide you with any updates as we know, but for now we're live in Rocky Mount. Sean Coffey, ABC 11 Eyewitness News. We'll send it back to you.
Sean Coffey live in Rocky Mount outside the Pfizer plant. Just under 3,000 people work inside that plant. And on the right side of your screen, you can see just how bad the damage is there.
But Pfizer just sent us word that they can confirm that the facility was damaged by the tornado. They're saying at this point there's no reports of any serious injuries. So that is some good news there that we are just getting back from Pfizer. But they said we are assessing the situation to determine the impact on production, because as you know, this will be impacting many medicines for a lot of people. Our thoughts are with our colleagues, our patients, and the community as we rebuild from this weather incident. That is the message from Pfizer this afternoon. And we should also give you an update on I-95, which had been closed in both directions near Nash County. Northbound lanes have just reopened. Southbound still remains closed, though, near Rocky Mount. 5 miles of congestion from those closures, from the trees that went into 95 and the debris that littered the road there. But all southbound lanes of 95 still remain closed near Rocky Mount, so significant delays there if anyone is headed that way at exit 141, which is NC 43, due to a road obstruction. But that road 95 southbound is expected to reopen by 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Northbound has reopened.
Northbound has reopened. 95. Okay. Again.
All right, we want to continue our coverage here of the tornado damage through Nash County. We now are assessing the situation. Dozens of homes, structures damaged, as we've been seeing from our aerial pictures here. Trees are down. The Pfizer plant in Rocky Mount was heavily damaged, but we did just get a statement from Pfizer saying that at this point there are no reports of serious injuries to anybody who might have been in that Pfizer warehouse, and they're working now to determine the impact on production, because this is a very important manufacturing plant, as we know, for medicine.
Major part of the hub, but no serious injuries is good news. Don Schwenniker, you got something?
Yeah, the National Weather Service just issuing a new severe thunderstorm warning, guys. This one for Wayne County. We talked about how just a few minutes ago, about 5 minutes ago, I was saying Goldsboro, you were under the gun as some heavier showers were headed in. This is a new warning now issued by the National Weather Service that does include Goldsboro. They have canceled the warning for Sampson County. That is good news. The one in Sampson has really pushed off to the east, and it's no longer in Sampson County. We see stronger storms still firing south and west of Brogdon, headed toward Mount Olive. That has weakened a little bit, but now Stony Creek to Goldsboro. This is the area with a severe thunderstorm warning capable of producing 60-mile-an-hour winds and 1-inch hail. This severe thunderstorm warning continuing. This one goes until 3:45 this afternoon, and you can see it also does expand up a little bit as we look to the north of that. It looks like it clips off to the north and to the east, the southern part of Wilson County and the very southern tip of Edgecombe County. Let's put these into motion over the last 30 minutes and just kind of get a motion on where these storms are heading, and they're basically drifting off to the northeast. So Stantonsburg, you're going to be right on the edge of this. Macclesfield, you may miss out on it too. I think it's mainly Goldsboro, central Wayne County, Stony Creek, headed toward Shine, and then also into Salston, Hood Swamp, and Coker's Crossroads, all under this severe thunderstorm warning capable of producing damaging winds and or hail across the region. Again, that is a newest warning issued by the National Weather Service in Raleigh. The rest of the region not seeing any severe weather. We are seeing some stronger storms start to fire up in Warren County, northeast of Macon. That is not severe, but if that holds together, it will intensify and head toward Roanoke Rapids. So we'll keep an eye on that as the afternoon rolls along. Once again, the National Weather Service issuing a severe thunderstorm warning until 3:30 this afternoon for southern Wayne County, and another one until 3:45 this afternoon afternoon for central and eastern Wayne County, Wilson County, and it heads off to the east toward Greenville and Pitt County, those areas off to the east as well. We'll continue to monitor this throughout the afternoon. Of course, we'll have updates as we roll along. Joel and Amber, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, the National Weather Service out of Newport Moorhead also has extended the southward area of eastern North Carolina. So eastern North Carolina is under tornado watch right now. Watch means that conditions are favorable for tornado, of course. So if you know anybody in eastern North Carolina, you might just want to give them a heads up to make sure that they stay weather aware and that they have a way to receive those warnings and just, as we always say, stay weather aware. You can do that with the ABC 11 app as well. We do issue those just as soon as we get them as well.
Pictures from the ground here, and as you can see, we are live outside the town hall in Dortches, this other very small community there in Nash County that has been devastated by this tornado as well. I am assuming that we are awaiting, maybe not, maybe we're just there to take a look at the damage there, and you can see some of the trees that have been wiped out outside of Dortches Town Hall, and Dortches has certainly seen its share of damage there. But that is live picture from the town hall, and as we are awaiting a 3:30 news conference from the sheriff in Nash County, we go back to some of the pictures that we've seen from Chopper 11 over the better part of the last 90 minutes or so, and some of the homes that have been absolutely devastated by this tornado, blown off of their foundations and obliterated, as you can see there in that home that is completely gone. We don't have any official numbers as far as loss of life or possible injuries. The best news that we've heard so far is from the plant in Pfizer with no serious injuries. These are pictures from Chopper 11 from I-95 through Nash County, and you can see just that line and path of the storm that went right over I-95, this major north-south artery up the eastern seaboard, and which closed the northbound and southbound lanes for the better part of the last couple of hours. But the last update, Amber, was northbound.
Northbound has been reopened. There is a 5-mile congestion delay there, though, as the northbound lanes get moving again, but southbound it remains closed near Rocky Mount. So if you know anybody who is traveling on 95 southbound headed towards Rocky Mount, they're going to encounter some very big backups as it's closed. They're removing the trees that came down. They do expect 95 southbound near Rocky Mount to reopen around 4 p.m. So if you're just joining us here at 3:10, we are in continuous coverage right now as an apparent tornado has touched down through Nash County this afternoon. We have confirmed that the Pfizer building is damaged. These are our aerial pictures here from Chopper 11. We did get a statement back from Pfizer telling us that at this point there are no reports of serious injuries. They are assessing the situation to determine the impact on production at this massive manufacturing facility in Rocky Mount, and Pfizer continuing that the thoughts and prayers are with our colleagues, patients in the community as we rebuild from this weather incident that you can see has caused significant destruction and damage across Nash County, Edgecombe County as well. We do have an update coming up at 3:30 from Sheriff Stone. The Nash County Sheriff Keith Stone is going to hold a press conference at 3:30 to give everyone the latest information that they have gathered as first responders have been on the ground now for a couple of hours assessing all of the damage.
But we're looking at pictures now from the Pfizer plant, and these are some of the more stunning pictures we've seen this afternoon from where this massive tornado blew through. Look, Pfizer is a very big deal in this part of the viewing area. This is the Rocky Mount manufacturing site. It's been there since 1968. This is a very large site. It spans 250 acres. They employ over 4,500 skilled professionals. This is the largest sterile injectable product manufacturing site, or one of them in the world, one of the largest in the world. And today, from the site from Chopper 11, it looks like a massive freight train slammed into the side of it. This building has taken a significant amount of damage. The good news we're hearing from Pfizer, no serious injuries. On the ground here, that is Dewan Hogart standing by somewhere in Red Oak. Tell us where and tell us what you're seeing, Dewan.
Yeah, Joel, we're just one street over from Green Hills, which is directly behind photojournalist Dave Anderson here. And we've been kind enough here to be let on the property by the folks that live here. And they said that they did not get any coverage, alert, or warning or whatnot. They were at home. They were enjoying themselves. They have an exchange student from overseas who was here. Her husband, the homeowner said her husband was out here mowing the lawn about 15 minutes before that tornado came through and just happened to come inside right at the right time. But they heard some rustling. They opened up the windows to just see trees flying everywhere. And if you get an idea for what you look at now, the woman came out. She was in tears saying, my backyard was immaculate. My husband takes a lot of pride in making sure that this backyard looks wonderful for the community. And in her words, she was afraid that those were going to be the last final moments of her life with just what she was hearing and what she was seeing just right outside of her backyard. Now, we spoke with them a moment ago because there is a camera here that's mounted to the back of their house if they happen to see anything. Of course, with power being out in this area and the Wi-Fi, they haven't had a chance to take a look at anything, but there is damage to the eaves of their home directly on the other side of this here. They do have a window that has been smashed in from their garage. But just around here, Dave, if I have you swing the camera around, her husband, Dave, who was actually mowing the lawn, he was down over in this area, and had he been outside for another 5 or 10 minutes or so, things could have been a lot different for Mr. Glenn as he was mowing the lawn. He had some neighbors that gave him a call and said, hey, heads up, here's what's happening here. But you just take a look at the entire field. Trees completely snapped. Like, no idea how long these trees have been here, but you can tell just by this tree that's directly in front of me, just the integrity of this tree and how solid that these branches were to have a tree that is, gosh, entirely long, several yards long here, just completely snapped in half here at the bottom. That lets you know about how heavy this wind was. And this isn't even the worst tree that we have seen in this entire area. Dave, I'll have you swing back this way. Again, just taking a look at some of these trees right through this area, completely torn down. Now, a few folks here in the neighborhood, Dave and I, we've been on foot. We've been talking with folks here in the community. Thankfully, everyone here has been in good spirits here in Red Oak. They are relieved to know that the structure damage to their homes is very minimal. There's been no loss of life that anyone is aware of out here, no injuries that no one has been able to report. But when you look around, you see that roads can't go by, that they do not have any power. There's no Wi-Fi. Just one giant mess for a lot of these folks to clean up. Now, back several homes over my shoulder in this direction, toward the end of this neighborhood, there was a woman, and she happened to literally, she said that she was watching our coverage live on air and knew about this. And within seconds of hearing Steve Stewart mention her neighborhood, she said she looked outside and she saw a huge branch flying through the air horizontally right past her window. And that's when she knew that the tornado was right there on the ground. She's a little bit camera shy. She didn't want to appear on camera, but the copper roofing of her house had torn down. She was waiting on the roofer to arrive. There was a shed in her backyard that had some significant damage there as well, but she and her husband have lost complete power. When we arrived, her husband was surveying some of the damage, hopped on one of his vehicles to help go clear the road, and that's what we're seeing here, at least in terms of the community effort. A lot of folks here with either ATVs or other sort of woodworking equipment doing their best to do some of the cleanup. There's a woman over here doing all of what she can, just with a rake, cleaning up some of the leaves here that appear to be there on her property, so some of her neighbors could just get through this neighborhood. As we were walking up to this particular home, there was a gentleman, saw him walk right through the trees here, and he said, hey, I live right on the other side of these homes. I was at home. Thankfully, nothing in my neighborhood looks quite this bad. Looks like it just missed us, but we don't have any power whatsoever. So if you can tell me how best to get to the road, I'll walk 2.5 miles to my grandmother's house because she has power there. I could take a shower. I can go and get a few things there. But we always kind of stress the importance of community in times like this where neighbors are helping neighbors. Just with what I can hear, I do hear bulldozers, I hear other construction equipment, folks just really helping one another out so these roads can get back clear again. It will provide some level of safety for first responders and other crews to be able to get in here and do the type of work that they need to, so folks, Joel, can get back to some of the restoration that they deserve and need.
It's an amazing story, and we are so glad that they were, at least the wife was watching ABC 11,
yeah, Steve
listening
Stewart.
real time over your neighborhood tracking, and able to take cover.
We knew that today that the conditions were going to be there for possible severe weather. Of course, no one ever wants anything like this, but that is why we do call it a first alert day, as you can see behind us here, whenever there's a possibility that we can experience this severe weather. So we are going to be staying on here until 6:30 today as our live coverage continues of tornado damage, apparent tornado damage in Nash and Edgecombe counties. We are expecting a live press conference coming up from the Sheriff of Nash County at 3:30, so about 12 minutes from
That's
now.
coming up at the bottom of the hour right now. If you're watching us, that means you have power, but there are hundreds of people without power in Nash County where this storm touched down, this tornado touched down just after 12:30, and according to radar right now, not confirmed, but it was on the ground for quite some time, perhaps 20 miles, and the damage is extensive. It went right over 95, taking out trees, obstructing traffic. I-95 was shut down in both directions, northbound and southbound, for a couple of hours. Northbound lanes are back open now, but cleanup is going to take some time.
We have one of our photojournalists is just wrapping up an interview with the Dortches mayor, and so we're going to try to turn that around and bring that to you in just a minute. But I think right now we want to go to Chief Meteorologist Don Schwinneker.
All right, guys, we continue to see severe thunderstorm warning in effect now for Wayne County. That severe thunderstorm warning continuing down in Wayne County, and it runs until 3:45 this afternoon. Live look at First Alert Doppler. You can see the one that was for Sampson County was allowed to expire. Some strong storms still continuing to work through the Goldsboro area. And now that heavy rain is shifting east of Goldsboro, let's go down in. Stony Creek still seeing the heavy rain. I-70, some of the places that are affected now: Salston, East Raintree Lane, Parkston Road. This storm capable of producing damaging straight line winds in excess of 60 miles an hour, also capable of producing 1-inch size hail. That's up to quarter size hail. So that's why that warning is in effect. I was just talking with Steve Stewart. I want to show this to you. This is a different product. This actually, it may turn black for a second. I don't want to scare my director if the screen turns black as it loads this new data. This is what we call shear tracks. Let me shut this mileage marker off real quick. So this actually shows the rotation as it was working through, and where we see that bright blue rotation right there, starting just west of Nashville, going south of Red Oak, this is the path the storm took. And you can see it ran right up across I-95 north of US 64, and then that storm continued off to the north and to the east before that rotation finally died out as it approached Scotland Neck. Luckily, Scotland Neck was at the end of that. But if we look at kind of where the heaviest rotation started, down there south and west of Nashville, and then we put a path on this, and that's what I was actually working on right there as we came out to me. Here's where that rotation started. And we were seeing rotation in excess of about 28 miles to the lightest rotation with this storm. So I think this thing has a path of at least 20 miles or longer. We'll have to wait until the National Weather Service does their assessment. But that's kind of where we are as far as how long this thing was on the ground. That is long for us. Most tornadoes last less than 20 minutes. This one would have lasted if this... Well, let's go back and look. We'll look together as we see. Let me shut off that path again. And we're going to take that rotation. What time did we start seeing? The time is on the title up there, and we see the heaviest rotation start in Nashville right around 12:17. And then it's on the ground. We see our last piece of rotation show up at 1:17. So that's over an hour. And again, most tornadoes are on the ground less than 20 minutes. So this thing beats that by almost 3 times. So that's a pretty powerful storm. Also, I was looking up some of the enhanced food. So here's how they'll determine how strong this storm was. And let me get the radar loaded real quick, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about what we're looking at, because I want to keep that warning in play right there, and then should any other warnings issued, we'll keep you updated. So the Fujita scale is named for Professor Fujita. He was one of the kind of cutting-edge professors back in the 1900s who worked on tornadic destruction and study of tornadoes out of the University of Chicago. And Professor Fujita came up with a scale on how big a tornado was. And then in recent years, that was it was fine-tuned, and so it's now the Enhanced Fujita scale, or the EF. and you'll hear EF0 to EF5. We have not seen an EF5 tornado in North Carolina, but we have seen EF1s and EF2s, and some of the typical observations within EF2, considerable damage, roofs torn off well-constructed houses, foundations of homes have shifted, mobile homes are completely destroyed, large trees snapped or uprooted, and light object missiles are generated and cars can be lifted off the ground. That's all what we're seeing right now, and that's in EF2. EF3, you see entire stories of well-constructed houses destroyed, severe damage to large buildings such as shopping malls, trains or trucks overturned, heavy cars lifted. This may go up to an EF3. Just looking at that. And again, the National Weather Service will go out there and determine that. And they'll also go back and look at radar data. I want to show this to you real quick because they just updated this, and then we'll get back to Joel and Amber. But you can see how it's kind of flashing right there. That is an update from the National Weather Service. They are continuing that severe thunderstorm warning in Edgecombe, Wayne, and Wilson counties until 3:45. So that's going to go for another 22 minutes or so as that storm continues to work off to the east and out of the ABC 11 viewing area. And Joel and Amber, I'll send it back to you guys. We'll continue to watch should any more warnings be issued.
Yeah, just kind of checking boxes as you're reading those damage descriptions on what an EFT looks like, what an EF3 looks like. We've certainly seen the visual damage of an EF3 at this point.
All right, we want to join one of our live reporters on the ground there. Sean Coffey, I believe, is outside of the Pfizer plant. I think that's where we're headed now to see. Oh, wow, look at that fence behind Sean in the tree.
Yeah, Amber, Joel, I mean, you can see the damage right here behind us. We're still here on North Wesleyan Boulevard in Rocky Mount. This is the Pfizer plant, that one that Joel mentioned earlier, employs about 3,000 people, the largest employer in the area, and you can see that enormous tree just came down on this fence. Another section of the fence on the other side here has come down as well, and we have some video I want to show from Chopper 11 earlier that shows really the strongest extent of this damage we've seen at this plant. Came on the back side of this facility, and we actually just spoke with a Pfizer employee who works in the warehouse area here, and he said that's what that area is. He said that that's the warehouse portion of this facility, and he was pretty shaken up. He said that that main section of damage you can see from Chopper was the warehouse. I asked if he would do an on-camera interview, and he said he was just in too much shock still to do that, which is understandable given the damage, but he said, quote, it was like a bomb went off inside. There wasn't enough time to think or know what to do. He said the lights flickered, then they went out in the warehouse, and he said it sounded like a train was approaching, and that he and his group, they ran to their designated safety area. He said it was an entire group of people. They made it to that safety area, so they have an area designated inside there to go for events of crisis or events like this. He said he did believe everyone, or at least everyone in his group, made it out or into that safety area in time, and that he hasn't heard anything else from Pfizer. But that's the first eyewitness account that we've received from anyone since we got here. Obviously, we're continuing to try to effort that sort of information to bring you the story from the people that know it best, that were inside the room there and know exactly what happened. He said that they have not received an update from Pfizer yet that he's seen, but he was told everyone was told to leave the facility. That's that shot that we showed you earlier off of North Wesleyan Boulevard. The traffic's still a mess here, really in this direction more, but there's a huge backup about 1 mile to 2 miles back down North Wesleyan Boulevard, understandably, as this traffic light is out. They're trying to allow those Pfizer employees to leave, but just a horrifying description of what went on inside as you saw those images of the warehouse really reduced and the roof kind of caving in a portion of it. So we'll provide you with more updates as we hear them here, but obviously a frightening scene inside the building there. We'll send it back to you for now.
And Sean, we're just going to keep these pictures of Chopper 11 looking at the extent of this damage in Rocky Mount right now. Again, this is the Pfizer plant. It's one of Pfizer's largest sterile injectable sites in the world. 4,500 people work inside that building, not on one particular day, but in total it is a huge job generator for of Rocky Mount. And we can go back to the pictures from Chopper 11 and continue to look at the damage as we cover the extent of this tornado that ran through Nash County earlier this afternoon. Again, this is the Pfizer plant where we've seen just some stunning pictures of damage right now. This piece of property is 250 acres. It's one of the largest employers in Rocky Mount, in Nash County. Jamise Price is standing by live. We want to get a report from her. Jamise, tell us where you're at and tell us more about what you're seeing there.
Hey Joel, we are on Town Hall Road, just off of Brake Road here in Dortches. We're just feet away from the Town Hall, and I had a moment to speak with the mayor here, Mayor Jackie Vicks, and he told me he was inside the Town Hall when this tornado touched down. Right now, we're just outside of a home that was damaged in this storm here, and you can see the roof is gone. The side of the home has caved in as well, and you can see debris and limbs just scattered through what is supposed to be that front porch. And the mayor told us that fortunately no one here was seriously injured. The person who lived here, he was in the home at the time, and once the storm passed, he came over to Town Hall. He just had some bruises from debris that came flying through the air. And I want to take you around here through this neighborhood. The mayor told me that there are about 4 homes here damaged on this road, and just this home across from where we are right now, and that was a mobile home as well. And I spoke with the woman who was in that home at the time. She was inside that home with her mom and their 3 kids. She says that she had a plan already in place. She knew exactly what to do, so they ran into the laundry room of this home here, and they waited until the storm passed. She said it was a couple of minutes, but it felt like forever. And then they were trying to get out the home, but they could not because the door was stuck. So neighbors had to come and get them out of the home here. So of course they're just shaken up by exactly what happened. No serious injuries there, but this road here, Town Hall Road, this is the main road here near the Town Hall here in Dortches, that is blocked because you can see a number of trees are just scattered throughout this roadway here. You can also see here where there are panels wrapped around the tree limbs. So a lot of damage here in this area. But again, the mayor telling me that although there's a lot of damage in this area, no one was seriously injured. So he also mentioned to me just up the street here on Halifax Road, not too far from where we are, there's a mobile home park where about 6 mobile homes were damaged in this storm as well. So again, the mayor telling me he was inside the town hall when this all happened. He said he heard the rain, he saw the dark clouds, and then all of a sudden it went dark inside the town hall. He said that felt like forever as well. He said it was about a minute, but he said it felt like about 10 minutes. And then when he came outside, this is where he saw all of the damage that you see around us here. There are crews right now, Joel, that are trying to cut those tree limbs down to get those out of the roadway so we can get traffic back moving into this area. And it looks like they've made some type of pathway because we see some cars coming through, Duke Energy crews coming through, as well as those workers with their chainsaws making their way up on Town Hall Road to clear this area, get those trees out of the way. And for those who are in the area, who are without power, it is hot out here. You may need something cool to drink. Town Hall is open for people in the community if they can make their way down here to have a place to cool off and get them something to drink. So we will continue to stay out here and talk to those people who made it out of this tornado and can tell their story. We want to hear from them. Also just assessing more of the damage here in the town of Dortches. Joel?
Jamice Price there with the damage and talking to the mayor in Dortches, North Carolina. The mayor was in the office at the time when the sky went black, and they sheltered in place, and it felt like 10, 15 minutes, but it was just a few minutes. Now, I want to let you know that a relief shelter is now in the process of opening at the Hartness Center at Wesleyan College for anyone who may be displaced from this. Also, Highway 43 from Red Oak to Dortches remains closed due to downed trees and damage there. And we just got word that 95 both directions now has reopened, but traffic is backed up, moving very slowly there because this shutdown of I-95 was extensive for several hours, and southbound was longer, stayed closed longer. So 95 is back open, but allow plenty of time there. All that information is coming from the Nash County Sheriff, who we should be getting, I believe, a press conference from the sheriff.
Yeah, we were told 3:30 we'd be hearing from Keith Stone, the mayor of Nash, not the mayor, excuse me, the sheriff of Nash County. So we are awaiting that. While we're awaiting Sheriff Stone, we continue to cover this tornado and the damage reports that we've seen so far. These are some of the pictures from Chopper 11 atop the Pfizer plant in Rocky Mount, where thousands of people work, a major job producer in that part of the state, and hundreds of people presumably inside this plant when this tornado blew through just after 12:30 this afternoon on the ground for what may have been as long as 20 miles and weaving just an incredible path of destruction through Nash County. We've seen the damage in Rocky Mount there at the Pfizer plant. We've seen the damage in Dortches, where Jamice Price just joined us live from. We've seen the damage in Red Oak as well, where DeJuan Hogarth continues to do reporting from neighborhoods there. But this Pfizer plant, this massive property, 250 acres, has been impacted greatly, and you can see some of the big rigs and trucks that would be parking next to this warehouse just blown over like toys. We see cars there, perhaps driven by some of the workers who parked outside this facility, still there, and we think about those families. But of course, the statement that we've gotten so far from Pfizer, that they do not believe any serious injuries from this tornado.
Yes, Pfizer said that they can confirm that the facility obviously was damaged by a tornado.
Yeah.
At this point, no reports of serious injuries. They're assessing the situation to determine the impact on production. And our thoughts are with colleagues, patients, and the community as we rebuild from this weather incident that has impacted the Pfizer facility there very hard in Rocky Mount. We're also starting to see images of a lot of power trucks and EMS vehicles that are headed in the direction on the highway. Some of our crews on the roads are sending us, Jeff Janka, photojournalist, just sent us a video of a convoy of 8 power trucks on 64 East that are headed towards the direction of the damage. And, you know, when we took Jamice Price earlier, we heard the sound of chainsaws. We had a tornado come through Raleigh over a decade ago. I don't know if you were here and you remember. It caused significant damage to a very big section of Raleigh, and that is the first sound that you start to hear. It's just the chainsaws. Everyone starts to clear the trees. There's so much of that starts to happen. So we're going to see a lot of response there with people helping out in that capacity. They're going to start bringing generators, but chainsaws, and of course right now they're just the power crews are headed there.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, at last check, Nash had about 1,500 people without power, so I'm going to get an update on that, and Edgecombe had about 758.
Well, it looks like Duke is making quite the dent here, getting power back on by the hundreds just since we've been on the air for the last couple of hours. That number, they've really gotten it down, so that work continues from Duke Energy Progress at this point. But those numbers going in the right direction, and very good news from NCDOT that both directions of I-95 are back open at this hour after closing down for the better part of 3 hours after this tornado swept through. Again, tornado touched down the first couplet around 12:36 and was on the ground for quite some time.
Yeah, from our aerial pictures, it looks like a large stretch of damage. But from the eyewitness accounts, they're saying that it just felt like it was just a few minutes. But of course, the minutes feel like hours when you're in the middle of any severe weather. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Don Schwinneker now.
Yeah, we are able to see that there was a rotation detected for almost 30 miles over the course of an hour. That would mean moving about 30 miles an hour, actually. So this thing was moving along and add in straight line winds, and that was certainly a fast moving storm. The good news is all warnings have been allowed to expire now. We do not have any active warnings in our area. There's still a warning showing up on the map there down in Farmville and the western side of Greenville toward Pitt County. That is not in our viewing area, but it is a severe thunderstorm warning nonetheless. Goldsboro, you're done with the heavy rain as it slides east now out of Snow Hill and works its way off. There are some more showers off to the west, south of Bentonville, Newton Grove, seeing some showers, some storms in that area. And then northern Cumberland County, you're actually seeing some showers just start to fire up around Spring Lake, southern portions of Harnett County. All of what I'm showing you right now is not severe, and the storm that did produce the tornado is long gone. But I want to keep you updated as we head into this 3:30 hour of showers and storms starting to fire. We're still in a Category 1 risk for severe weather for most of the viewing area. This one we've been watching over the past half hour, moving toward Littleton right now. It is working off toward Roanoke Rapids, Gaston, and the rockfish capital of the world, Weldon. Not severe. We're not seeing any lightning associated with this storm, but we will see that tracking along 158 over the next hour or so. We can actually go back to our radar from that storm earlier today. If we look at the last 3 hours, let's up this. We keep our radar around for a little longer than that. We'll go 4 hours out, and I want to shut off that warning that's on the map because that is not for our viewing area. Let me just click this and it's gone. And we can show you where this storm moves. So there's Spring Hope on the left-hand side of your screen there. Let's march this ahead. We really started to see rotation just west of Nashville, and this was around 12:15 this afternoon. This storm works off to the east. You can see the rotation continuing to slide right across I-95. That happened right around 12:30, and that's what caused the damage that shut down parts of I-95. Now, parts of it are open, parts are not. Not exactly sure where that status is, but meteorologist Kim Diener is in, and she will be checking on the roads in that area and have updates coming up in just a little bit. The storm then continued its path south of Whitaker's, crossing over US 3 or State Highway 301 north of US 64. You can see where that hook was in the radar there. It's really easy to pick out a hook. It looks like a bent over finger there as it went up through Whitaker's south of Enfield, and then finally the storm pressed off towards Scotland Neck, and we really started to see that coupling shut down. If we look at the rotation from that area, we can actually go back and look at the rotation that was inside that storm. We have what's called a shear track. This shows us where the rotation is, and where you see that light blue there, that's where the strongest rotation was. So you can see it starts to really ramp up around Nashville, slide south of Red Oak. There it is crossing the I-95 corridor, and then it presses off to the north and east, crossing 301. The widest area of rotation was just east of 301, north of Rocky Mount, between Rocky Mount and Whitaker's, and then it dies out somewhere north of Leggett as it presses off into Northampton County. That is the storm that produced that tornado earlier today. Right now, the only severe thunderstorm warning close to us is Pitt County and Greene County, just east of our viewing area, Farmville to Greenville. Anybody who's got a student at ECU, you know that area well, and that is under a severe thunderstorm warning for about another 6 minutes or so. The National Weather Service did allow the other ones to expire, and we are not seeing any other warnings in our region. Let's take a look at one of our extended models. This is the high resolution rapid refresh model. It's nicknamed the HER. This is doing a nice job. So one of the things we look at with a model is to see how it looks at the beginning versus real time. And you can see it's missing the showers out in Pitt and Greenville counties, but it is showing those showers starting to fire down in Cumberland County. And if we walk this ahead in time, it does show another round of showers possible between 6 and 9 up through the I-85 corridor and also down into Wayne County. So we will have to keep an eye out for that. I know there's a bunch of people, thousands of people headed to Chapel Hill tonight for that Wrexham game. I think they're going to be able to get it in. At this point, there is a potential for seeing some storms fire toward the end of the game, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, but I don't think it will be that big. The biggest threat for severe weather will be again down in the Sandhills. Looking at our first alert predictive forecast model through the evening, we'll be watching for any of those storms to turn severe. Right now, the only severe thunderstorm warning in the region is sliding off to the east. It will continue to work out of here. Let's head over to Steve Daniels for more on the continuing coverage of the tornado in Nash County. Steve.
Hi, Don. Thanks. Yes, our breaking news coverage continues right now as we are taking a look at the damage across Nash and Edgecombe counties. First responders on the scene. Our news crews are on the scene, and we're trying to bring this all into focus. The damage. Thankfully, as far as injuries go, there are no significant injuries. We know of 6 people in and around Dortches who were injured. 2 people had to go to the hospital. The majority of those people, the 6 people, were treated on the scene by EMS. We are hearing from the Dortches mayor in that part of Nash County as we're trying to understand the magnitude of the damage.
Well, I was here at Town Hall when it happened. It had been raining, and the rain had stopped, and it looked like it was clearing up. And then all of a sudden, everything just went pitch black. And then looked out the front, and limbs and tops of trees were going one way, and then in the next few seconds they were going the other. As far as I know, loss of life, nobody really seriously injured that I'm aware of right now. So God's good. We're blessed, even as bad as it looks.
That is Mayor Vick, the mayor of the very small town of Dortches in Nash County. It's a place we don't talk much about here on Eyewitness News. It's a town of 935 people, but it is very prominent in our coverage right now because of the damage. This is from one of our breaking news crews on the scene in the town of Dortches, where you can see tree limbs are down. There is damage to homes as well, and you can really understand the difficulty people are having in getting around. First responders getting around when there are so many trees down like that. When we see trees down like that, we often would expect that there are power lines down as well, which can be a very dangerous situation. Something, if you ever see power lines down, you should steer clear of that. You should not ever drive near them or drive over them. It's not ever clear when you see power lines down if they're live or not. And we're going to be talking to Duke Energy here in just a couple of minutes and get the very latest on their efforts to restore power, exactly how many people are out of power. Obviously, it's going to be challenging going into the night ahead for people who are without power, and on a very hot day like this, being without air conditioning is another challenge for people as they are trying to come to terms with the damage from this tornado in their communities in both Nash and Edgecombe County. As we are continuing to piece this together, we have other video we can show you. We've had Chopper 11 in the air. This is the most extensive damage we've seen. This is the Pfizer manufacturing plant there in Rocky Mount. And when you take a close look at this from Chopper 11, you can see how this structure has been demolished. Take a look at those big rig trailers. There are semi-trailers there in the parking lot. And there are obviously there's very, very extensive damage. This is an interesting factory that we haven't talked a lot about over the years here on Eyewitness News. It's one of the largest sterile injectable facilities anywhere in the world, and this plant covers 1.4 million square feet. That's how much manufacturing is going in there. It actually covers 250 acres, and as we're zooming in there from Chopper 11, you can see exactly what we're talking about there with the roof structure completely demolished. And thankfully, according to Pfizer, there are no reports of serious injuries, which is really amazing. I'm sure they have programs in place there to get people into a safe spot if and when there is a tornado warning. But we do have crews there on the ground outside the Pfizer factory in Rocky Mount, and we'll be able to talk to employees who are now leaving and get a sense of what that was like, those terrifying moments as that tornado touched down there, ripping apart their place of work. All right, let's get the latest now on what's happening with Duke Energy. And Bill Norton is with us right now on the phone. Bill, it's good to talk to you. We're glad you're joining us here on ABC 11 Eyewitness News for our breaking news coverage. Let's talk about where things are right now with the number of customers who are without power and your efforts to restore that power.
Absolutely. So the most important thing I would emphasize to customers right now, if you see a down line, please assume that it's energized. Please stay away. You know, branches touching lines, assume they're energized. Stay away. So if you're in that area, first and foremost, be safe. We have about 25,000 customers in Nash County, and only 668 of them are without power. So these are isolated outages. The challenge is this is also significant damage. So we have, while it's isolated, we have 21 broken poles right now in the system, and repairing a broken pole takes more time than just feeding a new line. So some customers, we've already restored their power, but others, it's going to be a challenge into the night and possibly even into tomorrow morning.
And Bill, is there any damage to other parts of your distribution system aside from the power poles that are down? Any other damage at substations or anything like that?
Yeah, no, the larger system as a whole is intact and working well. And, you know, we do have smart healing technology in Nash County, which means, you know, kind of like the GPS on your car. If you see a traffic accident, it reroutes your car around that accident. We're doing the same thing with power. So, you know, some customers have already had their power restored thanks to this advanced technology. But if you're right where the line has gone down, you know, obviously we can't reroute that.
What kind of timeline are you expecting to get things fully restored to the 668 customers without power, considering those 21 broken power poles you're talking about?
Yeah, so the good news is some customers have had their power restored already. Some it'll be a matter of hours. For a more challenging situation where you need heavy equipment going into an area that might be blocked by tornado debris, multiple trees down, we've got to cut those trees out before we can even get the equipment into place. So that's what might take a little longer into tonight or even into tomorrow morning.
Bill, we're showing some video right now from our breaking news crews on the scene in Nash County where we're seeing those power lines dangling down. They're tangled in tree limbs, and that's exactly what you're talking about, that extraordinary danger that we have to assume those are live wires. And this goes for anyone, anytime, anywhere. There are some power lines down on this roadway right here that we're showing right now live on Eyewitness News. The key thing is to always steer clear of that. You may want to try to get those limbs out of the way, those tree branches out of the way. You may be trying to get somewhere on the roadway, but you're telling us right now that can be very risky.
That can be fatal. So yes, please let the experts do that clearing. Do not try to do it yourself. You don't know what the other end of that branch might be touching. So please avoid that circumstance. The other thing we'd ask is, as customers always, as drivers always do, when a police car is at the side of the road, they always give them a wide berth. Please do the same thing with our service trucks as well. Keeping our linemen safe is certainly our biggest priority. It also restores your power faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let them do their work. How many crews are you having to bring in from outlying areas? Are the people who live and work in Nash County for Duke Energy, are they getting the job done, or are you bringing people in from other parts of the area?
We have native crews who are stationed there, who are already at work. We're assessing whether we need to bring in specialists from outside of Nash County as well. Certainly, if that is needed, we will do so. There are other service providers in that area. Edgecombe, Martin County EMC, and the city of Rocky Mount have their own service. So not all outages will be ours. But certainly, Duke customers know if we're their provider, and just know that we're coming.
Okay, Bill Norton from Duke Energy. We appreciate you joining us here on ABC 11 Eyewitness News. The headline from you: 668 customers without power in Nash County. There are other electricity providers in that area, so not everyone is Duke Energy. There are other people who may be without power right now, and we know that all utilities serving that area are working hard to restore power. The biggest challenge for Duke Energy and your crews, those 21 broken power lines. Bill, great to talk to you. We'll be checking in with you again later as we continue our breaking news coverage. Bill, thanks. And I want to continue showing you what we're seeing from the air, from Chopper 11 overhead, as we're seeing this damage. We were just showing you some various residences, one a mobile home, another a freestanding home there where the roofs have been ripped off and where there is damage. And I think as we all look at this damage together and we make sense of this and we process it, I just want to remind you that it's actually, we're very few injured people. And that is really quite remarkable when you look at this. According to what we're hearing from the Dortches area, that small town of 935 people in Nash County, there were 6 people treated by EMS. 2 people had to go to the hospital. We're still working to learn more about the extent of those injuries, the people who had to go to the hospital. And amazingly, here at the Pfizer factory in Rocky Mount, this giant structure that covers 250 acres of land. That's how large this manufacturing facility is, this biopharma manufacturing facility that makes a lot of things for hospitals that actually gets shipped around the world. It's quite an economic driver there in Rocky Mount. The extraordinary part there is, according to Pfizer, they have no serious injuries reported. They are working, their primary goal right now at Pfizer, they say, is obviously making sense of this damage, figuring out how they're going to get their manufacturing facility back up and running, how things that have been made there are going to be manufactured now at some of their other facilities around the world to pick up that capacity right now. Obviously, they say at Pfizer, I'm reading from a statement right now, they say our thoughts are with our colleagues and our patients and the community as we rebuild from this weather incident. So obviously their priority is now taking care of their employees, people who were there and absolutely terrified, I'm sure, inside that building when it was ripped apart by this tornado. And obviously people who are now probably going home and finding damage as well in some of their communities. So when we talk about these small, tight-knit communities, that's what we often think of. That there are, I'm sorry, I have a producer telling me about someone we're going to talk to on the phone. And I'm sorry, Jonathan's last name? Edwards. Okay, thank you very much. I'm multitasking here, so just bear with me. Jonathan Edwards is with us. He is the one of the public information officers in this area affected. Jonathan, it's great to have you here with us on our breaking news coverage on ABC 11 Eyewitness News. Help us understand what your first responders are seeing, the damage you're seeing. Fill us in on the latest from where you are, I'm sure at the Emergency Operations Center.
Yes, I'm at the EOC here in Nashville, but about 12:30 when we got word that the tornado had touched the ground, our crews went out to evaluate damage. They found a lot of damage in the Dortches area in a swath that goes northeast through our county. We've had a lot of residential damage, and our largest employer, Pfizer, has had damage at their facility.
And Jonathan, tell us about injuries. We were getting some reports from Dortches about 6 people treated by EMS, 2 to the hospital. What other details can you share about people who may have been injured?
I think so far that's the good news of this story. So far we have only had a handful of injuries. Our EMS treated 6 people on the scene. As you said, we have taken 2 patients to the hospital, and the hospital's had a couple people walk in. But so far, no fatalities reported.
That is extraordinary. Tell us about what you heard. Did you get sufficient warning from the National Weather Service about this coming your way?
What warning we got, I don't think there was a lot of time. It was a pretty surprise incident. I would need to talk to our emergency operation commander to see what he heard beforehand. But usually when an incident like this happens, early in the day there's the chance for tornadic activity, and we really didn't have that.
We were just getting an update from Duke Energy about the number of people without power in their service area. Obviously, there are other utilities who serve that area as well. What do you know about power outages, perhaps beyond Duke Energy? They say 668 customers without power in their service area. Are there more people without power?
As of right now, we do not have a comprehensive number of all the people without power. You probably got a great number from Duke there.
Jonathan, we're taking a look right now at Chopper 11 video flying over the area where we see so many residences demolished as well. Some mobile homes, some other freestanding structures demolished. Can you size up for us? Do you have any early sense of how many homes have been damaged or destroyed?
We do not at this point. We have several crews going out and evaluating the damage, and hopefully we'll have a comprehensive number soon.
And tell us about, I'm sure it's just a situation right now where your first responders have all been called in and they're all trying to get out to these various neighborhoods and roadways and assist however they can. Give us a sense of what's happening with your dedicated first responders there in Nash County.
Sure. Our emergency services immediately set up the EOC when we found out about the touchdown. We had crews going out there immediately. Luckily, we have great partners within the county and outside of the county that came to assist with EMS and chainsaw crews that came to help cut trees down. 95 had both ways shut down for a while due to debris, and that was cleaned up, and both sides are open now. So it's really been an all-hands-on-deck situation for not only our emergency services, but neighboring counties and local municipalities.
And Jonathan, you mentioned the Pfizer facility, and we've had our Chopper 11 video overhead. We've been showing that extraordinary damage there at the Pfizer manufacturing facility in Rocky Mount. What are you hearing from people who were inside? What are the stories they're sharing with you about what that was like as the tornado was passing overhead?
We've not heard anything from workers. I know that we have treated injuries in the area, but I'm not sure if they were Pfizer specific.
Jonathan, we are all a community here in central North Carolina. We're all in this together. Those of us who are in other parts of the area outside Nash County, how can we help out? What would you like us to know right now?
Well, definitely everyone, if you could, just think of our community and our residents. The Red Cross is evaluating if they need to open up a shelter. I know that's very important during disasters, that they have supplies and volunteers to help run shelters. Right now, if you live in or around the Dortches community, please stay inside. Please shelter in place until we get all the trees and power lines up. I know that a lot of the time injuries can occur after the event due to people trying to get out and look around.
Yeah, and that's what we don't need right now. We are providing that for people right now, helping people understand the magnitude of this damage. Our reporters are helping people understand that as well. Jonathan Edwards, the Public Information Officer in Nash County, thank you so much for joining us here on ABC 11 Eyewitness News for our breaking news coverage. Please know that our thoughts across the area are with you and everyone in Nash County tonight as you work to recover from this disaster.
Thank you.
And our coverage continues here, nonstop breaking news coverage on Eyewitness News as we continue trying to bring into focus for you the extent of the damage across the area. We're looking at Chopper 11 video from Nash County right now, where you can see it really is neighborhood after neighborhood where we are bringing into focus this extraordinary damage. Eyewitness News at 4 continues right now with Joel and Amber.
Steve, thank you. Breaking right now at 4, tornado on the ground in Nash County, leaving a path of destruction.
That twister on the ground destroying homes, damaging the Pfizer plant, as we've been seeing those aerial images, snapping trees and shutting down a portion of Interstate I-95 in both directions.
So far, no reports of injuries, at least not serious. Unfortunately, other parts of the viewing area still facing the threat of severe weather. Chief Meteorologist Don Schwennecker walking us.
See what's happening this instant from the Raleigh Eyewitness News Center. ABC 11 Eyewitness News at 4 starts right now.
And right now at 4, we are continuing our breaking news coverage on this first alert day as a storm system, which included a tornado, has passed through Nash County. We do have live team coverage of all of the damage as we have had our crews fanning out and responding to the damage assessments there.
Yeah, we've got pictures from the Pfizer plant. It's one of Nash County's largest employers. It's critical for the plant to restore power to save the medicine that is produced inside this building, 250 acres in all. Look, this tornado was on the ground in Dortches, which is about 7 miles northeast of Rocky Mount, at around 12:30 this afternoon.
That was the images there over the Pfizer plant, and Interstate 95 as well, suffering significant damage. 95 was closed for several hours in both directions near Rocky Mount due to many trees and debris blocking the roadway, the interstate there. But 95 in both directions near Rocky Mount has since reopened. There are still very significant delays.
And we'll have live team coverage of it all. We've got reporters spread out across Nash County as we continue to cover this major story of this tornado swiping through. We can look at our reporters spread across, and we can begin with Don Schwennecker in the First Alert Storm Center.
Yeah, our team of meteorologists started tracking the system today around 12 o'clock. And Don, we know that tornado touched down just after 12:30 in Nash County, it appears.
Yeah, that's what it looks like right now. Meteorologist Quaylen Murphy and Steve Stewart were tracking it live as it was working through our area earlier today. Here's our severe risk that runs through 10 o'clock tonight. This is just updating. You saw it update live on air from the Storm Prediction Center. Notice they've shifted that Category 2 basically out of our area off to the east. We're still in a Category 1 risk. Any storm that does fire can produce nasty weather and produce damaging winds. That's why we're still under that risk. But again, that Category 2 risk now shifting off to the east. Let's look where the rain is. A live look at First Alert Doppler. Severe thunderstorm warning east of our viewing area out toward Martin and Pitt counties. That's out toward Greenville, ECU, that area. We do see a line of showers off to the south and to the east. Still working through Wayne County. It was severe earlier. It's no longer severe, but still some heavy rain. And this rain is already moving over areas that have already seen rain. So we do have to watch for the possibility of some localized street flooding. That is shifting off to the east. That line extends back toward Bentonville, right on the Sampson County, Johnston County line, and then working back toward Cumberland County, northern Cumberland County. Here's Wade, here's Fayetteville, Fort Liberty's right here, Spring Lake. This line of showers is working east. It is not severe, but it is certainly working through. Live look into downtown Raleigh. We're mostly cloudy. Winds are light at 6 miles an hour. It is a very warm 87. Look at these feels like numbers. This is crazy. Sampson County right now, Clinton, your dew point's at 79. That's what they see in Miami. I mean, that is so much moisture in the air, and that's why these storms have the potential to go severe, because there's so much energy and so much moisture to work with. But it feels like it's 108 Clinton, 105 Fayetteville, 100 in Smithfield, and where it's rain cooled down into Goldsboro, 83 degrees. Let's first alert you to the next 12 hours. I still think we could see scattered showers around and thunderstorms, but mainly partly cloudy skies through the triangle, temperatures falling through the 70s all the way through 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. We'll have more on that, more on a severe risk that does continue into tomorrow, and a first alert to your 7-day forecast, all coming up in just a bit. Joel and Amber.
All right, we know you'll be tracking this very closely, and thank you very much for that, Don. I know that Governor Cooper gave a response as well today, and he tweeted out that he's spoken with the sheriffs of Nash and Edgecombe County about the tornado damage suffered there today, and state personnel are helping to get the roads open and providing other assistance as needed. And we've been reminding folks that the governor tested positive for COVID this week, so we know that he really is limiting his exposure to others and working from downtown Raleigh at the governor's mansion. So we just don't know whether he's going to be able to go on the ground to assess any of the damage.
He may not be able to get there personally, but he's certainly watching everything coming in from across Nash County right now. The governor, of course, born and raised in Nash County. DeJuan Hogard, live for us in Nash County right now. He's in Red Oak. Red Oak, one of the communities, one of those small communities, less than 1,000 people, hit hard by this tornado. He's been talking to neighbors and people who live there. DeJuan, tell us where you are now and what you're seeing.
Well, Joel and Amber, I'm just adjacent to Green Hills Road here in the town of Red Oak, in the backyard of Todd and Michelle. They were kind enough to give us a ride earlier today and walk us through some of the damage here. Thankfully, they weren't home, but when they came back, a lot of what you see here in this backyard is what they came home to. Now, Dave Anderson, our photojournalist, is just giving you a ground level view of what folks here in this community that they're seeing. Just over here, we see trees completely uprooted from where they are over in the front of Todd and Michelle's home. Directly in front of me, you see this really big tree here completely snapped. I asked Todd, I said, hey, have you seen anything like this before? He said, hey, I am from Raleigh. I've been through France, so I know what crazy weather is like. This is a lot more localized, but this is what they're having to come back to. Just talking about the power of community, you can hear chainsaws going, you see and you hear folks working with construction equipment. I mean, just take a look at this tree. This very large tree here snapped and is laying just yards away from their front yard. Trees completely down. The power lines have been down. We've seen power crews come by, work on their restoration process. Again, just the community here coming together to help each other out. And everybody is extremely grateful that despite a lot of this cleanup that you see here, a lot of the destruction that you see here, everybody is safe. They say that they are grateful that none of the damage was even severe now. Now on this home over here, you see some of the eaves at the top of their front porch here. That's going to have to be replaced. So what you see there, at least in terms of structure damage, we've seen a couple of the other homes end up looking the exact same way. And I want to go ahead and play for you a small bit of my conversation that I had with a homeowner, several homes over, that is. The front of her home, the eaves were a little bit messed up. There was some damage there to her garage, but I want to go ahead and play part of that conversation that I had with her not long ago about what her and her husband saw when this tornado touched the ground. Take a listen.
We didn't get any kind of alert. We were talking in our living room. My husband just came in and I said, look at the trees we can see out in the living room. Look at the trees. And we opened, we looked and we thought we were going to die. We're really strong Christians and we were going to heaven, but I'd never been so close to death.
Yeah, just listening to this woman being at home, her and her husband sitting there in their living room. He had just been called out from mowing the lawn 15 minutes before this tornado. She says even touched the ground. Some of her other neighbors were saying that they were at home watching our coverage, and within seconds of watching both Steve Stewart and Quaylen Murphy, one woman says she saw a tree flying horizontally right outside her yard, and she knew that she was in the middle of this tornado. Now, thankfully, the only damage to her house that is significant, a little bit of the copper roofing that was on top of her home, that will need to be replaced. There's a shed in the backyard that's going to need some assistance and immediate attention, but thankfully everybody here glad that each other's safe, and they're doing what neighbors do right now. They're helping each other out and with some of those cleanup efforts. Amber, Joel?
It's just heartbreaking to hear that, because you just know how very frightening that this was. We hear these accounts all the time. People say it sounds like a freight train coming through, but to see trees flying through the air of your yard, I just can't
thought
imagine.
we were going to die. Just a traumatizing experience, a scary afternoon down there in Red Oak. Also very scary in Rocky Mount as well, especially at that very large biomanufacturing plant, talking about Pfizer.
Yeah, we're talking about Pfizer, and Sean Coffey is on the ground there. Sean, we've been seeing these images from Chopper 11, just incredible damage to the Pfizer manufacturing plant. I know Pfizer has given us giving us a statement, and a lot of people are concerned about how much product, how much medicine was damaged in this as well, and how this is going to affect the supply chain.
Yeah, obviously.